You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation.
Welcome to Chief Speaks.
All music performed and produced by Yu Ya.
Enlightenment and transformation. Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadows of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie wait in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should neither aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the universe you've created. Male is your enlightenment. Female is your transformation. Child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness so it may enlighten you. Man, bring your light boldly into the darkness so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. Okay. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today, and I'm so thankful.
That's his home.
Therefore, now a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very clear.
That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much, because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands. And if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out there right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on stuff. Sit down and have some conversation with them. Not always about hearing their story. It's also about being in news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. Let me tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create. Okay, and as a family, this expresses inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. See, the problem is when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call in, we'll be like, "You going to church?" And I'm like, "Where have y'all been at?"
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God. So therefore, the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? We doing right. It's a good day for exorcism.
Greetings and salutations, beautiful people. It is on us again. Welcome to Chief Speaks Student Edition. Peace to everybody that's in the chat room. Peace to my brother that is on the line. We are going to be talking about nation building today. I really do know, trust, and believe that we are going to bring some good information today. I think this is a great topic. But first and foremost, with Charles, what's going on, man? How you looking?
Man, greetings, Brother Zach. Greetings to all those in the chat room. Greetings to all those that will be joining the archives later on. Greetings to all those that are in their cars listening to this as they're driving. Greetings to all those that are doing this as they're cleaning up. Greetings to all those that are coming out of that turkey-induced coma for the last couple of days and are trying to wake up or get woke, as they say. Yeah, once again, man, it's a Sunday, student-led Sunday show. It's me and Brother Zach here right now, but that doesn't stop other people from joining in. You know, we're going to make it do what it do as always. And we're always going to appreciate any feedback from anybody in the chat room and anybody that wants to join into the discussion. You know, we're all learners here. None of us are experts. But we all learn collectively better together. So that's how I want to start it off.
Right on. Like Brother Charles said, stay woke. We're going to get it on, man. So we're talking about nation building, man. And one of the things that when we started to when he dived in this month, it made me started to think about the beginning of my journey. And in the beginning of my journey, when I first met Chief, and we all was down there at the new retreat. And when we was down there, it was one of the things that, you know, I came in wanting to really just meet everybody, see everything. But the first thing that I wanted to do, I was like, I want to build a community where I can, you know, have a safe space where everybody can go and reside and, you know, children playing and doing all of these things to get rid of or rid the world of this racism, white supremacy that is going on. And, you know, it was very, I thought I was going to be living very bold and brazen. And I came to Chief, you know, he's so cool, man. He was standing there and he starts to just ask you questions. And when somebody starts to ask you questions about the direction that you want to start building or things that you want to start doing, now that I can kind of look at it and kind of examine what was going on, it was just more so I'm asking you to see where your own personal mind is, where your own mindset is at, because it doesn't matter if you know, all of these goals, dreams, and ambitions that you really want. It's going to matter is, the only thing that's going to matter is if your mind is right. Because if your mind is not right, then your sickness is going to start to bleed into everything that you do. And even though you sound cool right now, let's get to the meat and potatoes of what's going on here. And one of the things that, you know, I started to notice, even now as I'm looking back on it, it was just my American sickness that I was bringing into the pot. And it was one that I thought that maybe if I just got enough money, I can throw money at something and then it'll fix all of the problems. And I start looking around at certain people and certain communities and certain things, and they just figure that if you put money towards something, then money will make a problem go away. And that's not actually, it's just going to make it highlight more issues that is in this community or in a community, and then still keep going like that. So it's like, okay, first and foremost now, before we start to go, we got to start to break this down. Because anytime you thought anybody was ever taught to teach, he said, I'm going to break and break and break. Well, that's what he's going to do to you. Now, can you stand there long enough in order to get broke down so you could be made anew, right? Play on words. But so there's one of those. So you start to look at, as I was coming into it, it was more so now just, okay, did you read the book? Oh, yeah, I read the book. I got all of that, man. I'm ready. I'm telling you. Hungry. What's next? Okay, then now tell me, and you just pick some piece out of the book. Tell me about the 9-point divination. Huh? What? But again, that's my American sickness that I'm bringing in, saying that once I've read it, I'm done with it, and I don't have to really dig deeper into it to gain a deeper understanding of something. All I need to do is just go through it, and now you got to give me what's next, because I'm here, and really, I was just coming to consume. Consume, give me some more, give me some more, give me some more. Well, I ain't going to give you no more. You can't go to step 2 and step 3 until you understand what step 1 is. And until you get step 1, nothing else is going to make sense. So now it was a sense of me slowing down, because understanding that nations are not built just overnight. You have to build solid individuals. Solid individuals start to build solid mates. Solid mates start to breed solid children. And that's when you start to build solid nations. But you can't skip those steps. And if I skip that step of step 1 of me understanding of who and what I am, and just asking simple questions like, okay, well, what is your purpose? Which took me a long time to answer when he asked it. And even when I did, then he just followed it up with I'll never forget this one either, was, well, how do you serve your purpose if nobody is around? And it was a long, blank stare I'm like, what is this? What is he asking? Like, this doesn't make any sense. This, I don't understand. And then as you keep moving throughout your journey, as you keep going, you start to see that, you know what, if this is what you're called to do, if this is what you're supposed to do, you're going to see that there's going to be people that's going to come. There's going to be people that's going to go. But do you have the wherewithal? Do you have the gumption? Do you have it in you to keep going even though nobody is around you? Are you going to keep working on this craft, and are you going to be dedicated to it to get done what you need to get done, even if no eyes are watching you? Do you have it in you? But at the time, I was like, nah, I don't even know what he's talking about. And at the time, I didn't even know, even when you look at the book and the 0 and the 1 and understanding how those two complement each other and just knowing what a man is and what a man is supposed to do. Because I'm thinking a man is just supposed to provide, and that's it. And you say, it's not just the work, you got to be more than that. Well, what is all of this? And I don't think it really sunk into me and still really sinking in what what all of that encompasses and entails until about a good year and a half or maybe even into it, where it starts to really sink in. Oh, this is what that is. This is how you stand on that truth. This is what it's all about. And it took me a while, even before then, when you start to spread out into different communities, you start to go around different people. It's almost like now, because now I know a little bit about this, but it was more so now apologize for knowing some more than what somebody else did, but then still trying to make it similar to what somebody else was doing. So look, man, I'm not doing anything that's crazy. I'm not doing anything that's off the wall. I said, look, you have one God. I have one God, Olodumare. See? And Eshu is like Jesus, and those two are just alike. And even if you drop the J and the S, you have an ESU in the middle of it. And I'm trying to make the similarities between the two of them and see what, like, we're talking about the same thing. We can build towards the same thing. And everybody looked like, no, but see, though, that's not me really standing. That's not what a nation is about. A nation doesn't apologize for what it does. A nation doesn't apologize for its culture. A nation just stands on its culture, and it stands on what it is. So even if you like it or not, I'm going to, this is about the pride comes from what we do and who we are and the ancestors that came before us. But me trying to apologize to try to assimilate, it was throwing it all off. Me not even knowing I wasn't ready to build a nation. I wasn't ready to even stand on a nation. I wasn't even ready to say I was from a nation. I was still trying to assimilate into a different one. And once you start to, that was a hurdle and a challenge that had to get over me. Even if I had some laces on it, you go around certain people and you're wondering, or you don't want to be questioned by it. So what you do, like Debo, when they come around, you say, I'm just going to tuck mine in. I don't really want to be, I don't want nobody to say nothing. I don't want nobody to do anything. So I'm just going to say it in because, I just want everybody to be happy. I don't want people to look at me or view me different. But then when they finally come to it, the place of when you keep staying consistent with the study and you stay consistent with what you've been diving into this whole particular time, then it's finally like, you know what? It's time for me to stop apologizing for what I'm doing. It's time for me to stop trying to join in when I was meant to stand out. And if we're talking about a nation, and I'm proud of where I come from. I'm proud of what people have done before me. I'm proud of just even the book of reading, grasping the root of divine power, of how to be an African and getting your African mind back. I'm proud of that. I'm not going to hide the fact that that's what I'm doing and that's what I'm studying. I'm not going to hide it. And once you come to it, and again, I think the place of once you start to finally get to that standing on that ground, standing on that firm square is when you get to that place of just knowing your studies and trusting on, that, you know what, this is who we are. Now, I don't really need to explain what I'm doing. You got to explain to me what you're doing, because now that doesn't make no sense. And then when you start to have, and I think one of the things that I still struggle with is I think I can help try to pull everybody along, but at some point you find out you can't help them because everybody is not going to make this journey. But this, as it says in the beginning of even in the intro, when he just builds on, you can have the most ancient and oldest and powerful tradition in your mind, but if you come into it with a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it, and you're not going to grow. Now, the hardest thing to do, though, is to get over that hurdle of your sickness that you're bringing into it. And it's a process. It takes time. But if you're willing to take that process, if you're willing to take that time and stand on your square, you start to represent your nation and build solid nations, again, from the process of building solid individuals, which building your character. And then you start to build solid mates, which picking another mate who has solid character. And then you start to now evolve with the children coming along you in your youth. Now we can start to build solid nations moving forward. And it was and even if where this show was displaced, all of this encompasses everything that he's been talking about is nation. And once one starts to see, this is a process of now breaking down what you have been told all to this time, which it's not just going to happen it can happen overnight. But for me, it was a process. It was a process of getting rid of it so that we can start to build a solid nation and move forward. So that's kind of where I was with it. What you got, Brother Charles? What do you?
Man, first, I see you got your memory back, huh? I see you got that back. Yeah, no, I mean, I really appreciate everything that you just said there, and kind of taking it back to the beginning, to the your entry point into this new lifestyle. Like for me, when I was listening to the shows about nation building, the first thing that kind of struck me was how in the first show, Chief was talking about the roles of the different calls, the men's call and the woman's call. And one of the things that he was talking about was how the woman's call being started was being hindered by the fact that there were no elder women who were in the proper position to take ownership of that role, ownership of that group. And, I just thought about it like just that as a starting point to the conversation of nation building, talked a lot about the roles that are necessary for people to build or to play in the nation. And, I think that a lot of times we look at the idea of a nation as like this grand collective or idea. Like I think you might look at nation and think, kingdom or empire or something like that. But really what you're talking about is a collection of individuals. And even within that collection of individuals, there's a collection of internal things that each individual is going through and has to do in order to play their role in the nation, with the understanding that each person's role in the nation is a critical one. And if you're not playing that role, then that puts the nation at risk or in jeopardy. And so, when I was thinking about it that way, it reminded me of something that I'd read years ago from Naim Akbar. And the book was called The Community of Self. And so just like a quick aside to that, it was basically his idea. And I'm not going to say it was his idea because he could have been building it from someone else, but that, internally, each person has these different kinds of selves, right? And that these different selves are what the individual is trying to bring under one unity and under one direction. And that to the degree that the person can do that, allows them to do what they are supposed to do in the external community. So if you can make sense and you can organize and you can unify your internal community, then you can also begin to start to do that in the external community as well. And of course, that's the challenge because, a lot of times our focus is on trying to fix something outside. We want to fix something outside. We want to help someone outside. We want to mentor some kid somewhere, some child somewhere. But we have a lot of work to do ourselves. And sometimes we don't do the work on ourselves because we think it's more important to do the work to help someone else. But our ability to help someone else is always going to be impacted by the amount of work we put into ourselves. So when I was just kind of stepping, so when I started listening to the show, it made me go back and just kind of refresh my memory of that. And then I went back and looked at it. And it's interesting because, you have this sort of push and pull sometimes between different parts of who we are. So like in his framework, he's got these seven parts, right? And so one of those is like your drives, and your drives is like, hunger and lust and those like base sort of what you would call like animal desires that you have that drive your behaviors. And then the next part of that would be your senses. So, like you got your hearing, taste, touch, smell, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. And then I would add to another one like spirit, because, as you progress in your spiritual journey, you become aware of, I think, sensing and feeling the energy to things. So you can walk in a room and you can feel the energy of that room. You can feel the energy of those people around you. You can start to feel when someone is saying good morning to you, that they don't really mean good morning to you. They're just saying the words because you can feel the energy behind it. So you start to get these senses that help you to and once the development of those senses is the beginning of separating yourself from just where your drives are and what your drives want. And the next thing is the ego, right? And your ego is like, what I would say is your ego is like your personal push. It's like the thing that makes you decide that you want to be something in the world. It's like when you talk to a child and they tell you what it is they want to do or what they want to be, that's like the beginning of their ego development. So, I have a 5-year-old daughter, so she says that she wants to be a scientist. So that's like the beginning of her ego. Or my 10-year-old nephew says that he wants to be an architect, right? That's the beginning of his ego development. Like, this is what I want to do, right? I. So you feel that. And then the next part is memory. And so for memory, I would connect that with our ancestral memory. And because like in the spiritual work, especially when you're looking at indigenous or traditional spiritual systems, you'll always come back to the ancestors. Because in studying your ancestors, you begin to study and figure out who you are and why you are the way that you are and why you're even in the place that you're in. Some of us grow up in cities and we find that our whole family lives in that one city. Our whole family is from that city and that nobody left. And sometimes you don't even know why and why no one left. And then sometimes you have those couple of relatives that did leave and they went and, you find out what drove them, what was a part of their ego. And that lets you start to figure out, okay, this is what my family does. Maybe you come from a family of people that are farmers. Maybe you come from a family of people that are builders. Maybe you come from a family of people that are entrepreneurs. But that gives you an idea of what your role may be in the community. And then the next part, which Akbar calls reason, which I would say is like your purpose. And this gets to like, Zach, what you were saying, where Chief asked you, what's your purpose? And what do you do with your purpose when no one else is there? Well, now if you figured out, your drives, your senses, your ego, and your memory, well, now you're ready to figure out, okay, now this is my purpose. This is what I'm going to do. This is what my reason is for being here. This is my mission in this world, in this 3-dimensional earth world. And then the last part of that is what Akbar calls conscious, but what I would say is a collective push. And when you get to the collective push, I think that's the part where the nation building begins. Because if I can figure out like what my drives are, if I can maximize my senses, if I'm aware of my ego, but I'm not dominated by it, if I have an understanding of my ancestral memory, if I've determined my purpose, now I know who to align with. And our collective push is what begins to drive the creation of something bigger than what I would make just on my own. And then this decides how I'm going to play out and how I'm going to work within this external community. Now, the last part of this is that what helps all this stuff to work together, which is the reason why it doesn't often work together, is that it's all being driven by the will. And so it's your will that is the engine for overcoming your drives and developing your senses and developing a healthy ego and doing the work to understand the collective memory of your ancestors and finding and living your purpose and being accountable to the people within your community so that you go through the nation building process. And so without that will in place, which is the thing that so many of us struggle with, different parts of this will be working, different parts of it won't be. So, you may have gotten to a point where, you can stop, drinking, 4 days a week, but, you're still not, you're at the same time, you have no idea what you want to do with your life, or you know exactly what you should be doing with your life, but you're afraid to pursue it. So because of that, the role that you can play in the community or in the nation is hindered because your will, your engine that drives and organizes all those things together isn't in place. And so without that, a critical part of the nation doesn't develop. And so taking it back to what Chief was saying in the beginning, talking about the woman's call, without the women to play that role or the woman to play that role, that part of the nation doesn't work. And that is injurious to the whole process, because if you have the men's call and that's running well, or if it's running consistently at least, and there's no woman's call, then that means that there's an imbalance. So if there's an imbalance in the nation, then how does the nation really develop as it's supposed to? And this is not like, me getting on the women or anything like that. But it's just something that I realized from the beginning of that first call, that first show talking about nation building. And it just kind of took me through that little journey of rediscovery of those ideas and concepts. So that's what I got.
Nah, get on them, Charles. Where's that? Where they at, though? Huh? He said the men's car running. Where the women's car at? Yep. I know. Yep.
I know. You want to with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, peace, brother. Peace. What's up?
How you feeling today?
We good, man. We live larger than charge, man.
Excellent. Yeah, for me, excuse me. For me, I see almost kind of like a movie. You see the movies where the main character, he or she is easily affected by the environment. In a war setting, you see a bunch of infantry, moving towards the opposition and easily getting slaughtered. When we move in our purpose, into nation building, I see it almost as, I forget the name of the movie, but Arnold Schwarzenegger, moving forwards, when he get knocked down and he start to be so well thought out on his purpose and so gun-ho on, defeating his enemy, that it's almost that the bullets and, the things that are hitting him almost seem to be, ineffective, and it's not that he's not taking damage. It's just that he's so fortified in his movement and in his, and what he's, trying to accomplish and what he's accomplishing, that, he no longer is just affected by those same things that were, hindersome for him or detrimental to him or her. So that's kind of what I see, like, in my life, excuse me, what nation building has really done for me, and proven true. It's kind of bring me back to like light. Excuse me, it brings me back to light and sound. Where everything kind of has a beginning. It's like coming from a unconscious state. When you get hit with a grenade, in a nearby area, you disgruntled, you unaware, you're confused, you have all of these challenges, you don't know where your gun is, you don't know where your weapons are, you don't know who around you is even still alive, who is still even with you. As you come, into your awareness, you begin to be fortified back on your mission. It's back to reality. But this time with a more deeper understanding that it's life or death. And I feel, I'm playing for keeps. I'm not playing. I'm not playing at all. So this is not a play game. This is life or death situation where it's like if you continue to try, that same old step, on a war path where you've seen many others blow up, you've seen many others, lose their lives. You're committing suicide at that point, even though it's someone else that is seemingly doing it to you. You have a understanding and awareness now that is the battle zone. That just that's kind of like stuck out to me. And I also thought of an analogy kind of when Brother Charles was talking. Actually, Brother Zach, I'm sorry. When we're talking about the foundation, one, you have to build every house, one wood piece, one metal piece at a time. And in essence, everything is under, you dig a hole, of course, and everything is built underneath, that level, 0 point structure. Excuse me. So that's what kind of sticks out to me. Subconscious mind. We're reprogramming ourselves, to in essence be better and stronger to withstand, any type of combatants or war tactics. We're rooting ourselves stronger, what we were a year ago, 2 years ago. Every day I feel like I'm learning something new about myself. Sometimes I don't like what I see. To be real. Sometimes, I don't, some things I become aware about. It's like, okay, I had no idea that was something that, I had been holding on to or to clear up. But, it's all in the mission, that every day is a step towards enlightenment. We transform, and every day is a transformation. Us all coming together, now formulating, something integral, something that is, of value. And that to me, that's like water, bodies of water coming into one. It'd be a big old ocean, thinking any opposing ship or any opposing, threat. So that's what I got from it. So.
Yeah, thank you for that, Brother Randy. I appreciate that. There's something that you said there that really, really resonated with me, and I just want to take a second to highlight that. And that's, when you were talking about the idea of building the foundation, because that's an important part. And a lot of times, because of the world that we live in and how we get socialized in the world, we don't really build our own foundation. So our foundation is given to us by our parents or, our neighbors or the school that we go to. And it kind of tells us, okay, this is who you are. This is what you're supposed to do. It's like when, in that scene, thinking about movies, like in that scene in Malcolm X where, young Malcolm is like a little boy and he's talking to his teacher and he's saying he wants to be like, I think he might have said I wanted to be an architect or something like that. And the teacher tells him, why don't you be a carpenter? I'm like, that's a good job, And in life, those kind of things happen to us all the time, especially when we're young. And sometimes it's not meant to be malicious and sometimes it is, but it still has the same effect because it sets the foundation for the child. So if you tell your child you're not going to be anything, which unfortunately a lot of children are told, that sets a certain foundation for them. And then when you get older, you get to a point where you have to decide, damn, do I have to tear up this foundation and start over from scratch again? And I think in part of like that spiritual journey that we go through, which I think Zach was talking about in the beginning of his story, is that you have to go back and you have to tear up that foundation a lot of times and start again. Because for many of us, we are expressing a degree of awareness that in many cases our parents did not, or members of our family that raised us did not. So we have to tear up that foundation and then start by building a different one under it. Because if you don't, then similar to also what Brother Randy was saying, then you're always at risk of the house coming apart or the house getting flooded. So, as an example, when I moved into my house, it was remodeled. And one of the things they had to do in the remodel was tear up the foundation and redo how the water flowed around the house. Because if not, the house would consistently flood whenever there was a lot of rain. And so the original design of the house was just bad relative to where it was. But it took someone coming along and saying, you know what, I'm going to have to tear this whole foundation up and re-irrigate the around the house in order for it to stop flooding as much as it probably did in the past. And in many cases, we have to do that with ourselves too, because we're going to drown also in the flooding of this negativity that we don't actually have the proper foundation in place to move away from us because of the way our foundation was built when we were children, from people who sometimes had good intentions, but didn't give us what we needed for where we are, and sometimes didn't have good intentions and were trying to set us up for failure. So I just felt like that part of what Brother Randy said was like right on point.
You know, when you just was speaking about that, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to throw in the name of the movie was Terminator.
Yeah, no worries. You know, and just thinking about that whole connection piece, and just, you know, being grounded and founded, it just made me think of even that spiritual authority show. And when you have that spiritual authority, it's just now what gives you the authority to start moving throughout this world, and it's that connection that you're going to have in that lineage that you come from. And if you're not connected, you're connected to an alien lineage, or somebody has come in and co-opted your stuff and made you think that all of this was theirs, and you're not connected to it. You're not going to be able to start moving with that spiritual authority to get you to start to make things happen in your life and in your own community's life. But then when you start to get connected to that and start to go back and you go deeper to that and you say, hold on, man, I come from a line of spiritual gangsters. My dad is a gangster. Straight getting done things the way he needs to get done. My Babalawo, Chief Yuga, is a gangster. They don't take mess from anybody. So when you start to see that, and you start moving it throughout the world, you say, hold on, man. If they can move like that, then why am I moving in a different manner where I'm trying to be meek and trying to be, you know, passive and trying to accommodate everybody when the people in front of me didn't accommodate nobody, and they just said, this is who I am and this is what I do. This is what I does. You're either going to get down or you're going to lay down. And when you have a connection to that, when you can start to build off that solid foundation, and even that spirituality piece, when you say it's almost like that, your values, and your values is that V, which is that stake that you drive into the ground, which is now a connection from a seen to an unseen. It's almost like that equator piece around your belt. Is, you know, you have your upper half and your lower half, but it's now what are you connected to that you cannot see? And if you're not connected to that unseen and you're connected to somebody who has came in and co-opted it, well, then you're not going to have any strength. You're not going to have any power, and you're always going to be second-guessing yourself and not being able to make solid, sound decisions because you're not connected to that unseen of that foundational piece of what Brother Randy just was building on. So now it's almost like, come on, y'all, if we can start, and then all of it goes back into that nation building here. You can't build a solid nation if you're not connected to something that is going to be solid, founded once you start moving and building other ones that are coming behind you. So once we all start to, and it's not necessarily that whole piece again is we're not all going to be doing the same thing, you know, and the hand doesn't do the same thing the foot does. But at the end of the day, if we can come together and we have certain things that we can build on and say, this is what we agree on this, and we can agree on these couple points of this plan, we can start to move together and start to build a solid nation.
Hootie hoo, G's up. That's some real stuff right there, Zach. That's some real stuff that he just said too. You know, just to add on to that, man. One of the things that I've learned is that, you know, that Ogun, that acidic force, that brute force that you need sometimes to build that community has to be there, man. And, you know, I'm still, you know, I was in the same position trying to accommodate everybody and trying to make everybody happy at one point in my life. And then I found myself not doing that and going past that and just like doing the things that I need to do to build what I need to do, where I need to go. And I've noticed a lot of the things that I've had to do is actually like shed a lot of friends, a lot of people in my life, just so I can find the space where I can find my purpose. And now, since I have an idea of where I got to go and the direction I need to pull to, now I'm back to the stage where I'm yearning, like literally yearning for that community, yearning for that nation, yearning for the brotherhood and the sisterhood to really put together and work forward. You know, when I first came into ANU, it was a big time for me just to clear out my thoughts and clear out the things that weren't serving me, and going through the teachings and what Chief has taught me throughout the days. It was really hard. It was one of the hardest parts. Now the second hardest part right now is getting back to the community that I'm looking for and that I'm looking to create. I'm now at that stage where it's like, okay, now I have to go into that Ogun stage again and really use that acidic force to break through what barriers and what things that are around me to develop this community, develop this nation. So, and once again, going back to last month's conversation about identity, it's like we have to know each other, know ourselves in order to do that. So, that identity and what placement you put, what characteristics that you're going to bring forth, and what integral structure you're going to have, and so forth, so on. Character you're going to play inside of the community. You have to know that before you even build it. And going back though, even what brother Charles was talking about, like the women have their place, the men have their place. In my belief, I think the men need to open up, conquer the land. They need to make the land so the women can come behind and make the land beautiful. So I think that's a good point we got to look into. So that's just my additive to that. G's up.
Let me ask y'all this, because one of the things that I was hearing was, and a lot of times it comes into nation building, it's history, right? And if you don't have a history and you're not connected to that history, well, then now where are you starting to move forward? But then you have some people who come along who have certain things that, all you have is now and the present and in the now moment. And, it's not really a worry about your history, and it's not really worried about the future, because all of it is to be applied now. But then some people start to look at this history and they get stuck on this history and want to go back and redo what was already done. How detrimental, how beneficial, or where does somebody find the balance of using this history to move forward and not getting stuck on this history because they're afraid of what the future may bring?
Hey. Hello?
Peace, you on? Peace.
All right. This is Antonio.
What's up, brother?
Yeah. All is well. But I wanted to answer that question Zach is posed, because it was actually what I was meditating on the strong. I think that's a double-edged sword when it comes to history, because a lot of people get stuck in history. They don't want to move past the history. Chief touches on it a lot, where people always talking about Kemet and what we used to do back then and stuff like that. But he also says, if you were meant to be here back then you would have been born back then. You were born now. But at the same time, you have to have a knowledge of your history, because that's how you form your identity, by your understanding your perception of your origins and how you came to be where you are now. Now means nothing if you don't understand how you got to be here. If you could easily get lost like that. And you have to form that personal identity in order to form a framework of moving through this world. If you can't do that, then you can't build family. If you can't build family, you can't build a nation. So that's my take on that. That's what I was meditating on this strong.
I almost see it like a room, or a realm. The history of your ancestors, is a collective of, information in which you can utilize, of course. But if you get stuck in that room, what can you essentially do, if you are, in essence, bodying yourself into into 1 second, you become ineffective. You become counterproductive. Excuse me. So, I think it's I think it's almost like going into the shed, to get, that the tool that you need, in order to conquer certain obstacles, because most people, for one, most people don't even remember what they ate last week. You know what I mean? Like, even like basic history of a person, like, we ignore a lot. There's a lot of useful information, that we ignore just in our own movement, that has correlation with that tool that's in the shed that you are reaching for. It might provide more clarity as far as to why you move a certain way, or behave a certain way. But in essence, you can't be productive stuck in the shed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and if I can just jump in on that question too, I think the hard part is that I think the challenge for people of African descent is that a lot of times there's not a naturally flowing understanding of the past and of history. So, if you're a person of African descent, you're aware that there's a significant part of your knowledge and understanding of your history that has been taken from you or that you have never been taught. So, I think that there's a sensibility to wanting to go back and understand those things and fill those things in, right? Because it's like, even if you're a person, your last name is like Davis, you know that your real last name wasn't Davis. So even that starts a certain looking backward idea to go back and understand, like, well, how did my name become Davis? And what was my name before then? And what did my people do before they were here? And I think, then you kind of get back into, as Brother Antonio was saying, like the studies of like an ancient Kemet and things like that. And I think part of that is because the other part of like not having your historical memory or identity is that the one that you're given is one that essentially tries to start you with the idea of being a slave or being less than in the society that you live in. And so there's also, I think, a natural attraction to the idea of coming from the greatest civilization on the face of the planet Earth, and coming from the civilization that invented philosophy or invented, medicine or invented, toilets or something like that. It's very easy to get caught up in that because you're trying to repair, in a lot of instances, an already damaged sort of ego. And ego is important. Ego is an important drive for how we get things done. The problem is that, and I think this is something that, I learned from Chief in the very beginning when I started this process, was considering, how do you really put the value on those ancient things today? How applicable can they be, and what is the responsibility that you have for innovating on those things? So, where understanding how the pyramids are built, how is that helping you in 2017, about to be 2018? So how practical is it to the challenges that your people face today? And I think that sometimes the inability of us to connect that building a pyramid, at the turn of a century to now is a direct result of that disruption in historical memory to begin with. Because it's like you have two places, and the bridge that was between them, which would be the normal sort of human memory process, has been broken. And so you can see the bridge on one side, you can see the land on the other side, you can see the land on the other side, but you can't always see the bridge that goes between them. And the challenge, I think, for people of African descent is to figure out how to build that bridge so that you can keep moving forward. So, I that's like a kind of a long-winded answer for me to just say, like, I do think that there's value in learning about your history. And I know that's a broad thing. At the same time, to your point, I don't think there's a lot of value in trying to recreate ancient Egyptian or Commission or African history today, because it's a completely different world. Now, there are aspects of that are going to be useful, absolutely. But does that mean that everyone needs to go back and dress like we did, 1,000 years ago, or talk like we did, or eat the same foods? No. And in some cases, that's not even possible for where the world is now. And I think that break in the application of those historical concepts to modern ideas is where we experience a lot of the challenges we do.
Let me chime in on that. And I agree with the concept of knowing your history. And I believe your history should provide tools for navigation, tools for construction, tools for architecture. Like you talk about Ptah, the great architect. You talk about Tahuti, the healer, the script. You know what I'm saying? You talk about Ogun, the metal man. They all of our Orishas, our Netzeru, our our with lack of a better word, deities, they have descriptions amongst each other. Amongst that, even in our family, we have descriptions of what our fathers did or our mothers did. And they give certain tools for us to move forward and develop a new generation. That's why they say they give us generational names, Generation X, millennials. So during that time, we're supposed the history from the family is supposed to be brought forth through the children. So the children are able to take that information that was given and then produce something new. You know, I think history is important when it comes down to that. Our past lives is important when it's in this situation, because we have to gain the wisdom in order to go through the knowledge and then receive the understanding. So with those tools that are given within our past structures and past cultural growth, we're supposed to renovate, reinitialize, recreate the newer version of that culture, of our history, of our place. And I agree completely with Brother Charles said. Who says we need a pyramid right now? I think we had this conversation a while ago. Like, who says we need a pyramid right now? You know, we might need some other kind of geometric form instead of that. So, you know, it's taking that information, how they built it, and bringing it into the forefront and the light of today.
You brothers mind if I jump in for a second?
What do we need right now?
Well, so Zach, can I just pull on a question from the chat room here, which I think actually might go along with your question.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to get your permission there.
Yeah, she's up.
We gotta it's protocols for everything, right, man? But it's Vivid Eye Publications asked this question. Can you speak on the different roles in a nation? That term role is thrown around a lot, but what are the roles in this modern day? So once again, the question is for the group, can you speak on the different roles in a nation? That term role is thrown around a lot, but what are the roles in this modern day? And Zach, I think that's a build off on your question of what do we do now? Like that kind of question.
Can I jump in on that,
and
brothers?
even when,
can you hear me?
Oh, please.
If you mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. I saw that question in the chat as well. And, before I do that, it would be good if you guys are not speaking to put your phone on mute, because there's a lot of scratchiness and thumping around in the background. You may not be able to hear it, but on this side, we can hear it. There's maybe somebody's moving or something like that. So it would help the audio. But those were the things when you speak about that in terms of roles. When I had spoke about some of the components that comprise a nation, that reveals to you what the roles are. When I spoke about geography and language and celebration and anthems and entertainment, and these are the things that comprise a national mindset. Of course, obviously, one of the first things that I spoke about was you can form a nation anywhere if you can defend the land that you either take or barter for or purchase. But it's completely legitimate, even in the eyes of the United Nations, if you decide that you want to form a nation. If you go steal the land, that's not actually illegal, but you have to be able to defend that piece of land. So when you look at all of the different components that comprise what a nation are, it lets you know what the roles are. So when we say there's a geographic aspect,
when it comes to nation building, well, then, you need people who are cartographers, people who can read maps and create maps, individuals who can work land, who can cultivate land, because geography is an important part of nation building. When you speak about language is an important part of nation building, and it lets you know that you also need linguists. You need people who have a keen understanding of what language is and how to craft and sculpt language, and how to form words of power. Archival systems, I think I spoke about as well, which we call libraries. But, people who can archive information and make it readily and easily accessible to other groups of people. So you need librarians, you need archivists, so that's another part of nation building, or another role that goes in. So if you actually go back and listen to the segment and just write down the components that I spoke about that make up a national mindset, then you will understand the roles that are needed based on what makes a thing. So if you just stand up and say, well, we need this and we need that, we need this role, we need that role, we need that role, because if you look in the conscious collectives, mostly everybody, it's just filled with lecturers and people who do hair and skin products. That's pretty much what like, especially when you talk about economic empowerment and the conscious community, it's, you can buy some shea butter, some black soap, some handmade candles, or you can come, check out this lecture. That's pretty much it. But if you really look at what's needed in terms of a national mindset and nation building, it has very little to do with any of those things, that we're pushing to one another in that sense. So look at the components that I first spoke upon, and then you can shape your roles around those components. Now there's just two other things I wanted to hit on. I don't want to be hoggish with the time or anything like that, because you all are very much flowing. But there was a question and an idea that came forth dealing with history. And one of the challenges that everyone needs to be aware of is, like Brother Randy said, the personal history of individuals, and where that becomes an issue sometimes, because it's not really looked at or revered, and of course a lot of times, when I'm speaking to people, some of you who are not on the air, but like in the chat room and stuff, you're very uncomfortable with sometimes history that's brought up. When I say, well, listen, you have a historical pattern of doing this, doing that, people try to ignore that. And a lot of times it's because of trauma. Often our history, our historical markers are based upon our traumatic markers. So, and it's different for men than it is for women. For example, and I've shared this before briefly, but women pretty much crystallize their history in the moment where they had their first child. So you'll find that, again, you could have a woman who's 40, 50 years old. If she had her first child at 15, that's pretty much where she stays at, mentally and emotionally, unless she goes through a real serious process. And that goes to, like what Brother Charles said in the beginning, in terms of tearing down foundations. But if not, you'll have a 50-year-old who has the emotional maturity of a 15-year-old. So there's something very special and mystical about the imprint that a man leaves inside of a woman when she has her first child. There's and that's one of the reasons why it becomes very difficult when you have a child by someone at a young age, and then you're no longer with them, and then you move on to someone else, because you still have that original person's imprint, and you've still been crystallized at that age, which would be perfectly fine for the person who you were with at that time, because they know you. But now a new person meets you, and you may be 30, and they don't realize that they're dating a 15-year-old. You see, so that's one of the historical markers that we all need to be aware of when we're nation building, and there's a feminine component. Now, for the masculine component, men typically crystallize themselves at an age where they yearn the most for love in their lives. Wherever that age was, where they feel like they didn't get the love that they were supposed to get, typically from a maternal figure, because that's really the only place you really look for it from. But when you got to that point where you didn't get the love that you felt you should have had, men pretty much stop right there. And you'll find that going forward, again, they could be 50, 60 years old. All of their relationships are created and crafted around a desire to reinstill and forward and recreate that love that they didn't get at maybe 8 years old or 7 years old or 5 years old, 6 years old. So you'll find that even some of the things that they require and they want from their mate are based upon that. They maybe they want to lay in their mate's lap all the time, or when she's lactating, they want to, drink the milk. And I know it sounds a little graphic, but you all know what I'm talking about, but they find themselves in situations where, depending on the level and the format of intimacy that they want, it gives you a clue as to where they first felt abandoned in terms of love. So now when you're nation building with people and your community building and your family building, these are the things that you have to be aware of. And a lot of times going back and touching those very sore places, because they're sore ideas for people. A lot of times going back and touching those places can get you in a lot of relationship trouble. People, that's where the arguments will flare up. You may have a situation with your man where, you start yelling at him and not realizing that emotionally there's some things in him that are still missing from when he was 8 or 9. So he begins to respond like a child. He freezes up. He doesn't know what to say. He can't formulate his words. He can't think. So either he gets quiet and he leaves the house, or he becomes violent because inside is still a little boy who's yearning for love that didn't really get it. And then the same thing with the woman, when you get to a certain place with her and you're saying, listen, this is what we're going to need to do. We're going to need to do this. We're going to need to do that. And she says, I don't like having to listen to people. I don't like authority. I don't like having to submit, things like that. You don't realize you might be talking to a teenager inside. You might be talking to a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old, so that historical perspective and knowing personally, like Brother Randy said, like, a lot of times we don't know what we ate last strong, but having that awareness on a general level as well with dealing with people is important when you're trying to build with them. That's critical. All right. So I just wanted to add that little micro piece in terms of that. And there was one other thing that hopefully you all don't feel too shy about going down this road. Before the segment started, when we were just kind of setting everything up, Brother Zach and Brother Charles, you two were having a conversation about credibility, and you said something in terms of Brother Randy, as far as his credibility, that I felt was apt. And if you don't mind, if you remember it, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind going down that road, because it's an important conversation in regards to nation building.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
We can
cool.
certainly do that. You want to just kind of share what we were talking about, what we were saying now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So just real quick, what Brother Zach and I were talking about, and Brother Zach, you can definitely just chime in on this. So we were talking about the men's call, and we were talking about, Brother Zach made the comment that one of the things that is so important is that there's trust amongst the group. And so if as a group of men we're going to talk about building anything, we need to have trust, and how that trust is influenced by whether or not you can count on the person to really be an asset to their community and really be a benefit to their community through their actions. And so Brother Zach was saying that, sometimes you have people, and this wasn't directed at necessarily someone in the group, but just saying that, sometimes you have people who they want to build things, but they have no credibility, or that they're people that have demonstrated a history of taking from their community as opposed to actually building it. And so, what we were talking about, what I was saying was that Brother Randy has been a person who has demonstrated credibility. And so, like, we were talking, because Brother Randy last week did like a great presentation on, it was on like purchasing homes, but one of the things he was talking about was credit. And we were just talking about credit in the social sense. And with Brother Randy, one of the things that had raised his credibility to us is that he had said that he was going to do something.
and that he said he was going to do this presentation, and then he did the presentation. And so we were both talking about how, Brother Randy is one where now his credibility or his credit within the men's community is higher than someone else's, because he's demonstrated an ability to do what he said he was going to do. And so now he becomes someone who's more reliable. And so if you're looking to build something with someone within the Anu men's group, now Brother Randy has raised himself to a level where he's someone who you feel you can have a greater sense of trust in working with. And so, we were saying that just as a collective group, where everything is, there's a lot of room to grow, because we have not all demonstrated that level of credibility. We have not all done the things that we said that we were going to do, and some of us haven't said we were going to do anything yet. So that the ability for us to really build is compromised by the fact that so many of us have not done something or have not done what we said we were going to do. But for those that have done that now, like Brother Randy, now they're in a position where their credit is higher within the group than others.
Right.
And so, Brother Zach, is there anything you want to add to that?
I mean, you pretty much just nailed it on the head, brother. My whole thing was, when we was just talking and we was building on credit, it was just the whole credit is the credit that you have in your community. Because when I look at credit, it's like nepotism. When you start moving in the world, it's almost like nepotism is real. So it's just a matter of, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you don't know somebody and you don't have the credit between this person and haven't built a relationship between these two people, that are in this collective group, then it doesn't matter all of this other stuff that people like. You come in and I see all of these elaborate ideas in different communities and people coming around saying that this is what we got to do with laying out these designs. And then you look at it and say, well, wait a second, why is none of this working? Why is none of this actually taking hold and people actually applying these things? And you start looking and say, well, hold up, we have some damage issues going on, which is now we got trust issues. And if there's no trust and no credibility between a couple of individuals, well, then how are you going to come together and build anything or even start anything when I can't trust the person sitting right next to me? And now what are we going to do here? So now it's more so it's just a show and prove. And that's when Brother Charles just started pointing out, Brother Randy, when, if I would say I'm going to do something, then you step up and you do it. And if you're not going to do it, then you just sit and chill and just move out of the way to make sure that everybody else gets. But don't open your mouth to say you're going to do something, because then now your quote unquote credit score starts to drop. Or if you want to sit there and just watch and not jump in, you don't have a credit score at all. You're just sitting there watching because you're afraid that everybody's going to make mistakes. Are going to happen. Everybody's going to make it. But, and now it's that going back to the beginning of even what Brother Charles said, it's that, you can feel the energy behind when somebody said, you know what, I just fessed up. Or even if you make a mistake, just say you made it. Don't try to cover it up and say, oh, well, I didn't do that. Or, I only did that because so-and-so do that. Because one of those things, you can see that in the video what Chief did with another, like I said, a comment. And I shouldn't have said the comment. Just come out. That's, again, you establishing credibility. And I'm not going to do it behind closed doors. If I made a comment out loud, I'm going to come out and say I messed it up out loud. That's how you start to establish credibility with people. But until we can finally start to overcome some of those barriers of saying, I don't want to be criticized. I don't want to be critiqued in front of everybody. So you know what? It's easier for me just to sit back and do absolutely nothing. I'm gonna just sit here and just watch and hopefully some divine intervention will come and just solve these problems. And now we're not building on anything. Like we can't get anything done like that. So that's one of the things that I just start seeing with this within our own internal community here is just and Brother Charles pointed that out with Brother Rand.
Yeah. Thank you for that, man. It was pretty profound, and it was it was something I heard out of the side of my ear, as we were setting up. But I thought it was so apt in terms of just, because you guys were talking about, of course, the men's call, and one of the things that you said is that it would be beautiful if there was like a rotation of men in terms of, even like with the student calls, if there was a rotation. But as I see and I speak about often, what's happening here is that leadership is being carved out. So yeah, it would be great if everybody participated and everyone just didn't sit there and listen and stuff like that. But those are followers, so you have to be able to discern the leaders from the followers. Now, everyone, is going to have the gumption to be able to step forward and say, okay, this is what I got, and this is what I learned, and this is what I'm doing, because not everybody is doing something. And people come into these experiences for all sorts of different reasons. That's just the reality of it. Not everybody is here for the right reason. Some people are here to steal information, which is a common thing. I'm being sent videos probably at least once or twice as strong of different people who are biting, basically. We're just, they're biting, they're plagiarizing. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna take it to the old school. I'm gonna take it to, we say you biting my stuff, So I get that stuff regularly. So some people are here just for that. Um, some people are here just because it's entertainment, it helps the day to pass a little bit more or whatever, So especially when you're speaking about nation building, and like one of the things that you all spoke about earlier was, the comparison with the women's call. Well, as you know, I always blame the men. The women are in the shape that they are because of the shape that the men are in. For all of the men who are able to function and get a good flow going, and now like the brothers are really building on the men's call, where you guys are now really you're constructing something is beyond talk at this point, which was always the intention. So that's good. Plan is coming together. Um, but the women that are in your lives, are you raising up the leader in them? So because we can't look outside of our homesteads and say, well, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. Even in terms of the eldership of the women, one of the first things that went through my mind was, you know what, I got to bring an elder woman into my homestead, as a mate. Now, why would I bring an elder woman in my homestead as a mate? Well, because I need a elder woman in Anu. You see, so sometimes we have to look at what we're doing first as men and look at what we're putting out into the world as opposed to looking beyond our own borders. If there's a lot of single women in Anu, I don't expect them to have that sense of leadership or that sense of that organizational faction within themselves if they have no one organizing them in their lives. And if they're with men who are not in Anu, then they're not going to feel a sense of leadership when it comes, or even a sense of purpose or awareness when it comes to Anu business. So one of the things we have to look at first at men is like, well, what are we doing with our women? Do we have a lot of brothers here who are keeping the information away from their women? Is this your own, like, is Anu your own man cave type thing? And I'm not speaking about you brothers on the line. I'm saying in general, it's a something I'm saying for every man. How involved is your mate really in what you're doing? You know, um, so that's why there's a lopsidedness there. You have some elder women who don't have mates, and so they don't have that sense of accountability or responsibility. They don't even have that sense of saneness. They're still living in the worlds of chaos, and they get their little order fix every Sunday when they get to hear me speak, and that's all they really want. Well, I listen to you, Chief, and well, that ain't really enough. And in terms of giving back, that doesn't even give them enough to be able to have enough energy to give back because there's not enough order. So that's why that imbalance is there, and it's always going to be there until the brothers kind of step forward and bring and raise up something better in their women. You got to raise up the leader in them, man. It's not just going to be there because even though women profess about how much they care, they don't care that much. you know just like it's just something we just have to say. Oh yeah, women are nurturing, not as much as you might think, man. I know some real cold broads, and it's the same thing with the spirituality. They're more spiritual. I've never met a woman more spiritual than I am ever in my life. And I've been around some powerful women, but I've never met a woman who had more spiritual power than me. And I say it, I just say it sometimes to be nice, but nah, you ain't more spiritual than me. So um a lot of times the things that we're looking for in women, we have to instill it in them. We have to put it inside of them, because they are in different matter. And that's the beauty of them, that they don't have all of that direction. They don't have all of that order. So it's like there's a fertility there. They're ready to be what we put in them, but we have to put something in them, or they're not going to think about doing these things.
You know, and one of the things that when I heard on some of the past shows, what he was saying is where your greatest strength is where you're going to be attacked at.
Right.
And I was watching some of your even when you was on the Odd Anomaly, and it was you were speaking about manhood, and it was then the first thing that came out of one of the sisters' mouth was, well, you're speaking about you, but we're not talking about all men, right? And made a distinction from saying. And it was almost in the sense of like every time a conversation comes up about a quote unquote black man, it's always just in the toilet and it's negative. And or if a woman starts to say, you know what, if I really want to get me a good man is going to have a 401k, good credit, and he's going to have blonde hair and blue eyes. Or I'm going to get over here. How do we then, or is that what you was just speaking on, start to inject dignity back into a conversation when we start to speak about the black man?
You know what? At some point you have to, like one of you was speaking earlier about everyone is not going to make it. You know, if you can't see that I'm the sugar honey iced tea, I don't want to mess with you anyway. You know, so if I have to sit here and try to, because see, a lot of times what females do, and this goes in another kind of direction, but whatever, you know, it is what it is. They pick these real dusty, raggedy type of guys to be with in order for them to keep promoting and proving their I stand by the black man narrative. You know, and the reason I say that is because I'm a black man who has always had my stuff together. Since I was a teenager, I was always next level. You know, and I've dealt with women who couldn't handle it and would opt to they liked the more rougher side of me, the more thuggish, barbaric side of me. But then once we get through that, and I'm like, all right, now look, now this is what we're going to do. We're going to put this money together. We're going to buy this. We're going to do that. We're going to empire build. They started to fall short. And they'd rather deal with that other aspect, because that other aspect, they can always come back later and say, you know, I stood by the black man. I gave the black man a shot. And look at what he did. He pumped me full of babies. And that, but you did that on purpose. So that way now you could fit into that narrative. You see, so you got to be able to recognize a jackass from a thoroughbred. Some of them chicks are just jackasses, and they do that on purpose because they really don't want to strive for anything in life. So they'll get with a loser, and then they'll make these broad statements. And notice I'm saying some, not everyone's. Some women who are thoroughbreds are looking for thoroughbreds who are even stronger and more powerful than them. And that's the ones that I'm concerned with. You know, the ones who have all these hard luck loser stories, you know, of you know, I was with this one and I stood by him and he was in jail for 10 years and da da da. But you know, you knew he was a high risk person when you got with him. But now once things go south, now you want to condemn the high risk behavior. You knew he was out here, he was a dope boy. Or you knew he was out here, you know, running up into people's houses or whatever he was doing. You knew all of that before, and you still laid down with him, raw dog, let him skeet inside of you, put a bunch of babies inside of you. So that way in your later years, when you want to now trap a good man into your web, you can play that narrative, I stood by this man. But you never had a man. You knew he was a high-risk boy. So that kind of narrative, like you say, like, how do we bring some dignity back? To dignity is already there. It's just stop talking to chicken heads. That's what it really is. And I know this is a harsh way to go, man, but you know, hey man, you know, either F with it or don't, you know. So, and this is not my segment. This is the student segment. So my name ain't on it. You know, but yeah, man, that's what it really is. That's what it really is, man. And you know, I spoke about that with those sisters when I talked about we have to stop waddling in the bottom of the garbage can when we're looking for mates, because we're afraid to get with someone who may be of a higher caste system, who's going to cause us to step our game up. See, that's what we don't want. You know, you might get with someone, like you get with a sister, she might ask you, what's your credit score? You might not be used to a woman asking you something like that. And you, oh, well, I think it's like a 5. She might, her fork may drop. Y'all might be out, like, a 5. Well, how are you living out here? So, and then you might have to say, man, F this, man, because I know the last chick didn't ask me that. Or you might say, let me get my thing together, man. She's right. I shouldn't be walking out here like this when I know all I got to do is pay that, $70 cable bill, from 3 years ago, and I can get my stuff together and, stop using these prepaid cards for everything. So, a lot of times, man, we're just afraid of that step up. And again, it goes back to the traumatic history because we're looking for something different. I did hear the tones, and, I understand the sisters are hurt, like in what you were saying. Yeah, of course, the conversation goes to, like they said, well, are you checking these men out here? Well, and then one of the sisters said, like, well, I check them. Well, a guy who lets you check him isn't a real man anyway. So what the hell are you gonna tell me? You ain't checking me on nothing. So it's a lot of times the narrative does go immediately to the men are the problem because again, that's that plantation mentality. Where we blame everything on the buck. Something stolen, oh, the black guy did it. We talk about abuse, we mean say, yeah, these men are abusing, but that's not the case. See, we have to, accountability is the key word. If you want to try to infuse anything into a conversation, infuse accountability. That's really what it's about because we, and when I say we, I'm saying men and women, both of us have messed things up out here, just in different ways. And I've been explaining this for years on this segment, but like someone said to me recently, well, I had 3 people say to me recently, you repeat yourself a lot on your shows. And I said, well, that's because you can't hear. You got effed up ears. If you really hearing, I never repeat myself. I may infuse certain concepts into different shows over and over again, but every single show I talk about something different. I make it a point to do that. But if you shut your ears off as soon as you hear certain words and a certain narrative kicks in, you don't hear anything after that anyway. You just hear want, 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 want. Like right now, there's some people listening that's saying, oh, Chief is going off again. He going off on the sisters. That's all they hear. They don't hear me saying, no, I blame this on the men. I started off by saying that. They didn't hear that part. They only heard me say something about women, and now they shut out. So then they can say tomorrow, well, what did he talk about yesterday? Well, he always talk about women. You see, because they shut down. So and that's a narrative that we, it's because of the trauma. We got to be aware of that. So as soon as you hear words like roles, or you hear words like abuse, or you hear words like nation building, or you hear words like community, there's people who, as soon as you say those words, those are trigger words. And then certain narratives start to play in their mind. And then anything you say after that is just background noise until you say something like, you know what I'm saying? I hear you. I hear everything you're saying. You hear me, but you're not listening. You see, so accountability is a big issue, man. But us being in tune, especially as men, being in tune with some of the trauma that our people are walking with, and how it's like the Manchurian candidate. Certain words are going to trigger certain things. When you stand in front of a black woman and you say submit, what happens? She goes berserk. You say submission, submit, obedience, words like that. And you may not even be using them in the context of oppression, but her internal narrative is going to put them in that context. Like I've defined submission about 30 times on these segments. Sub, under, mit means plan. Submission means to come under the plan. And I can't tell you how many times I've been on the phone and said, I don't like submission. I don't like having to listen to people. Negro, I just defined it about 40 times. Why are we going through this again? Because as soon as I use the word, you shut down. So I can't bring you to another level. I can't bring dignity to the conversation because you're stuck in the plantation narrative. And the plantation narrative tells you that I'm only here to work for your pleasure and your benefit. And I'm always the root cause of everything. If we talk about the community, we got to talk about these men who abandon their homes. We have to say that. We can't say Man, some of these evil broads be running some good men off, and then the good men, they go mess with Becky because they tired of the BS. They trying to build something in life. They're not trying to spend the rest of their life arguing with you about stupid stuff, or they're not trying to get with you and raise another man's child because of the stupid choices that you made early on in your life, rolling around with these dusty dudes in the dirt who were high risk and weren't any good to begin with. And now all of a sudden I'm supposed to raise this little half a thug. I don't want to do it. See, we can't have those conversations. It's just, too many people get offended, but it's the truth of what is, man. So, when you start dealing with nation building, like you said, bringing dignity to conversation, just people who speak that narrative, you lace them, drop a couple of gems on them. If they pick up the gems and apply them, then maybe you can work with them. If they can't hear you and they keep saying the same stupid stuff, you keep it moving. This is not the person I want to build a nation with. You're too stupid. And that's just the truth. Some people just, their minds are too feeble to really nation build. They're just too feeble minded. So you leave them to this nation. They're really just batteries for this society. You let them just keep being batteries because there's nothing going on upstairs. Nothing. And that's why a lot of you brothers get so frustrated, man, because you spend a lot of time trying to convince feeble-minded people without realizing that they're going to die dumb. They're just a distraction. There's some smarter people out here that understand things, and they may not look the way you think they should look. They may wear bow ties and, have their hair permed and have weaves and wigs and stuff like that. And you might be saying, well, that's not the look of an intelligent man, you got to get through. You got to get over that, man. A lot of these people, especially in the conscious collectives, they're feeble-minded. That's why you got so many phony teachers out here talking about absolutely nothing. Well, why is it that I can always regurgitate and rehash garbage? Because people ain't listening anyway. They just want the experience. That the same reason why a preacher can sit on a pulpit and run his mouth about the same thing for 50 years. Same damn message for the past 15 years. Get right. Get right. And then he puts some music behind. Doom, 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 doom. Get right. Get right. You see what I'm saying? And people, man, pastor going off, man. Pastor going in. He talking about the same thing he's been talking about past 50 years. Right? Because people ain't listening anyway. They're just feeling their way through things. They're not listening. They're not processing. They're not synthesizing. So that's why if I break down a word like submit, or I break down a word like respect, does it change the minds of most of the people? No, because they ain't listening. But there's a few. And those few shining stars are the ones that are going to make some things happen. But for the most part, like right now, people are just saying Chief is going, he hard on the sisters. That's all they thinking in their mind. Feeble-minded. Without understanding what I'm saying is that this is plantation mentality. Plantation mentality is something that's programmed into you. You're not born with it. That means somebody messed you up. So don't let me be the target of your anger. Let the slave maker be the target of your anger. That's where the problem is. And the problem is that you're willingly going into that type of experience because you want to be safe. You feel like you're safer in that environment. And what I'm saying is too dangerous.
And before, I wanted to ask you one more thing, but I don't want to. Did anybody want to jump in on this?
No, I'm good, man. But good.
Yeah, they don't want to get in trouble.
So it seems to me that then once we start moving forward, the thing that I see that can help and start to correct some of these issues is now of having practicing plurality. But then when you start to inject that and saying, okay, if we're going to start to boycott some of these half-baked boys that are running around, well, then now they shouldn't be able to breathe. Which therefore now, if you see a man or an alpha man handling his business and taking care of what he needs to take care of and can spiritually, physically, and emotionally cover multiple women, then that would, to me, would be the answer to starting to clean up the community. But then when you start to suggest that, then it's like, now, women, well, I'm not sharing them. I'm not going to do that. How do you start to, is that an answer? And how do you start to get over some of those hurdles?
Man, plurality isn't the answer to fix the black community. The only people who tell you stuff like that are polygamists. Either male polygamists who want a lot of women, or the wives or lonely women who are trying to sell themselves into a family. That's not the answer. Is it a part of the answer? Absolutely. But there's so many things that need to happen before you decide as a man, I'm gonna go get me multiple women. Because first off, if you're suggesting it, you're already on the wrong road. If what does a leader suggest? Who does a leader suggest something to? A leader gives an order. A leader says, this is what I'm doing. Now, either you can fall in or fall out. But for me to suggest something means that I'm not really too sure about it. I don't really know what I'm doing here. And, anybody will tell you, confidence is key in anything that you're going to do. However, black and ugly as ever, but still I stay Coogee down to the socks. I mean, Biggie told you that, like, black and ugly as ever. However, Coogee down to the socks. Because I'm just that confident.
Still got it.
Yeah, I still got this. So that's really the key there, man. A lot of times, as men, we're still looking for that cooperation from women in order to do what we need to do, and that's nothing but an excuse. If you do what you need to do, then they will come in. And that's the same reason why so many sisters fall into plantation mentality. We don't want to be sensitive and aware of the nature of women. Women gravitate towards power, period. They gravitate towards power. So as long as you're moving through the world with no power, she's not going to mess with you. Now, you could sit there and you can try to reason and rationalize for as long as you want about how she should practice plurality. She should do this. She should do that. But, if you're trying to reason and rationalize and suggest, that means you're negotiating. And only people without power have to negotiate. People who are empowered and on their throne never speak from a place of negotiation. They speak from a place of power. And I'm not saying you're going to force somebody into plurality, but the truth is, you take the average sister and you ask her, who's a man that if he walked through the door right now, you would just jump his bones if he walked through naked, right? And whoever the hot guy is out right now, there's a bunch of them now. So I'm not going to keep using the old school ones. Obviously, it ain't Denzel Washington anymore, but there's a whole bunch of hot ones. Now, the average woman is not even checking to find out if he has a girlfriend, if he's married, if he's this. She doesn't care. I want him. So many women love Idris Elba. You say, hey, if Idris Elba was standing in your doorway with nothing but a towel on, fresh out of the shower, what you doing? Yes.
Take me now.
Right. So the thing is, are they concerned about, well, I already got a man. Does he have a woman? This, that. Is he going to get me pregnant? No, because they see him as being empowered. They see him as being something great. Now, a lot of you guys don't realize this. Your woman don't look at you that way. She sees you as a lame. So when you start coming in and talking about things, and you start coming and saying, hey, how about we do this, or how about we do this? She's like, Idris wouldn't have did it like that. You're a sucker. No. The answer is no. That's not what Idris would do. Idris would have said, come on, in that English accent, come on, let's go upstairs. He would, however, we need Dietrich, because Dietrich does the accents good. But, so the thing is, man, are you greater than great in your woman's eyes, man? That's the solution. Have you made yourself great? And and again, like I said, if a woman can't see that, then don't mess with her. If you got to sit there and argue with her and negotiate with her and things like that, then she doesn't see you as a superstar. She doesn't see you as larger than life. You see, so that's what she's going to gravitate to, not how you can break something down and make it make sense to her. That doesn't matter. She doesn't move from a place of sensibility. You could tell by looking at the dumb things that she does now. Sleeping with every thug in the neighborhood, got 3 babies by 3 different thugs in the neighborhood, and then talking about, I stand by the black man. You never been with a black man. You don't know what it is to stand by a black man. You did that on purpose. So that way you can act like you're a queen now. You ain't no queen, you're an idiot. Straight up, you're an idiot. So this is what I'm saying, man. So men have to step up their game in a way, man. So when you come to that woman, she's looking at you like you Idris Elba, like, damn. Now maybe you might not have abs and BDs, or it's because sometimes the image that's presented You know, just like every woman is not going to be shaped like Serena Williams or whatever, and have a face like, you know, Rihanna or whomever. Every woman doesn't really have that, but you have to be larger than life, and you have to see. A lot of times men lose hope, and that's the problem, man. Sometimes I've been to like conscious events, man, and we out in the field. You know, they're usually out in fields and stuff like that, man. And I seen black men out there wearing Croc sandals. You know, Crocs. And I just look like, come on, dog. What are you doing? You know, like that is the ultimate sign that you have lost all hope. You've lost. There's nothing left here for me in this world. I'm not for this world long. You know, that is the ultimate sign that a man has lost all hope. He's outside wearing some neon green Croc sandals. You know, and sometimes he might be the one carrying the baby. You done lost all hope. You know what I mean? So how is she gonna look at you when now another brother comes along, and you know, that's why sometimes when that thug gets out of jail, he's gonna sleep with your wife. Why? Because he's still in shape. You know, he keeps himself manicured, whatever. He's got an excitement about him, and women are addicted to excitement. They need that excitement in their life, man. And what he does is he reminds her of everything you were before you lost hope. You know, he's not pulling up in the minivan and whatnot. He's pulling up in a 2-seater. Nah, I ain't got no room for no car seat. Tell your mother to watch the kids. Come on, you coming or not? You know, so all that excitement and all that zeal and that hope for life that you used to have, that you lost over time because you became effeminate, because you hung around the house too doggone much. You know, when you should have been out in the field with the rest of us kicking up dust. You've lost that excitement about you. You've lost that zeal about you. So now when you come to a woman talking about some nation building or some plurality, what you have to do now is you got to try to convince her. Let me tell y'all brothers something, man. I have never tried to convince one woman in my life of plurality. And I've never had a woman say no, except with the exception of one sister. One sister is the only one who's ever said no. And that's because her father, she was Senegalese. Her father had 6 wives and he just made a mess of it. Like he just ruined it. But she told me no in 2008 and in 2014, because we're still cool to this day, was like, yeah, I want to get down. You know, I see how you move. You know, you do this thing right. But by then I didn't want it anyway. But the point I'm saying is that I've not, yeah, because you ain't gonna, come on, man, you ain't gonna say no to me, and then she's touring with different, you know, she's a hot chick, so you know she's all with all these different reggae artists touring the world. You didn't get turned out by half the world, and then now you want to bring that rancid thing home to me? Nah, player, it's a wrap.
I'm ready now.
Yeah, I'm ready. You know, let me just scrape all these dead flies out of my cooch. So but you know, we still cool. That's my homegirl.
Let me just say one thing, Chief, man. G's up.
Yeah, well, you know the other side of that. You know, so the thing is, it's like, again, as a man, you got to really work on yourself, man. You got to build yourself up. See, that's the key. And you don't have to do all of that convincing. You know, because she'll see you just like she sees sunshine, and says, oh, that's the sun right there. So if you got to say, girl, don't you know who I am? Girl, don't you know I know what I'm doing? Girl, then that means you ain't ready yet, because you're just saying it to her because you want to see your light reflected off the moon to see what it looks like. You should already know. You know what I'm saying? You know, I already know. Like I said, I'm the sugar honey iced tea. I know that. Now, I could run down a list of why I am that. And another man, I want all men to be able to say that. I'm the sugar honey. All right, cool. Now we can get something done, because women will gravitate towards that power. But it begins with that confidence in knowing what you can create out into the world. You know, but no, you don't suggest anything, man. You don't suggest anything. And I've been saying that for years, Jack. You know, don't suggest anything to a woman. All she's going to do is get confused, and her default is no anyway. That's a woman's default. No. You know, her default is not yes. It never is. Hey, can I speak to you? No. Can I get your phone up? No. You know, can you go over there and tell your friend I like? No. You know what I'm saying? So you don't ask these. Come here. Yo, come here. I'm gonna holler at you for a second. Friday, I'm gonna come by. I'm gonna come through. I'm gonna pick you up Friday. I'm not asking you. And when she feels the electricity of your manhood and the strength of your confidence, man, ain't nothing she can say. She ain't gonna say yes, no. She just uh-huh. She gonna be stupefied because she's not used to that. Because it's a rare thing nowadays, man. You got to move like a bull, man. All that mousy asking and suggesting, man. Scratch that. That's nation building.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, brother.
So, even is that when you was kind of just speaking of when you was talking about, I hear a lot of women sometimes say that they're more spiritual than a man, and you just was kind of building on that. So, is that where the imbalance comes in? But women are attracted to power, but then in essence they are power. Is that then where does the imbalance come in with that? Is that then start to create some risk between now being coupled with a man?
No, not at all. Because see, a woman can be power, but she wants that authoritative power because she wants to see a woman is, and I could even clean up that statement a little bit. She's attracted to your authority. That's why most women, what they like is a man in uniform. It don't matter if you could be a security guard, you could be a cop, you can be whatever, personal security. When they see that uniform, it turns them on. Why? Because authority. They want to be ravaged. They want a man to just, take it and all. And I'm not advocating any kind of craziness, but I'm just saying, if you look at even some of the type of romance novels that they enjoy reading and some of the stories, it's always based upon a man going out and taking what he wants in the world, going out and getting it, not trying to negotiate for it, not trying to ask for it. So it's that authority that they're in love with. And it's when you recognize her power and you say, I'm going to be an authority over it. Now, you do have hard-headed sisters out here now that are leading a lot of women astray. And they'll tell you things like, no, don't listen to him because you power and you got your own authority. Listen to that inner voice. Well, that's why everything is so effed up. That's why y'all end up turning 30, 40, 50 and still can't get a man to stay with you. Because you listening to these idiots. And half of the times these idiots don't even like men. And I mean intimately. They like women. And they're hiding that from you. There's a lot of them in the conscious community. They may have children, but there's no man around because honestly, they're undercover lesbians. So the thing is, a real woman, she sees that authority. That's why a woman a lot of times is attracted to a man who she sees who has other people under her. I mean, under him. Like when you come into the room and you have a crew, or you could even be working somewhere and you're the manager, you're the supervisor, and you're delegating and stuff like that. A lot of times women find that attractive because they recognize your authority. They know from a primal and spiritual instinctual level that authority is needed in order to bring some order and to bring some productivity and functionality to the power that they already have inside of them, that authority is necessary. So that's where the mating really goes on. It's the consciousness combining with the power, or the Shiva or the Shakti combining with the Shiva. So in that sense, Shiva being that consciousness, Shakti being that power, they're looking for that authoritative consciousness. But it's not, you can't convince her, man, because half the stuff that, and we don't like to say it, half the stuff that you're trying to convince a woman of, she doesn't even understand what the hell you're talking about anyway. She doesn't get it, because like, even when I'm speaking, a lot of times women say, yeah, I listen to you all the time, Chief. And I'll be like, okay, so what about da. And they don't know what I'm talking about. They probably understand about 40% of what I'm saying, because I'm not speaking woman's language. I'm a man. So I don't necessarily know how to navigate that other kind of way where they communicate and learn in their way, in their form. You see, now I can speak to things, like when I did segments like letting go, all the women love that. Oh man, if you go back and listen to that segment, you know, where I talked about how to let go of certain things that are keeping you blocked and whatnot. And part of what I did was I was playing music in and out, and I was talking because that was women's world. I was being creative and abstract. So a lot of women were digging with that one. But other segments where I'm just straight teaching and going in with a lot of logic and linear information, those shows got like 300 views on them, which is basically zero. You know, because it's like there's like 300 men in the men's ministry, so that was pretty much the guys. But they don't want to hear that. You know, because we learn differently, and that's fine. That's okay. This, you know, that's good actually, because it just means that we get a wider reach of what it is that we can take in and how we can deliver information, and so it gets more interesting and more exciting. But yeah, all that the negotiating piece and whatnot. Nah, got to stop that. But it's authority, man. Men have to become authoritative, but you can't really become authoritative until you come into a place where, you know, you have something to be an authority over. And it's not your family all the time. You know, sometimes guys who, you know, again, the push for polygamy is because they never built anything. You never had a business, you never supervised anybody, you never so now you want to have all these women and these children sitting up underneath you, and you could be Big Baba. Yeah, y'all go make my food, and y'all go, you know, that's what a lot of times is about. I'm gonna keep it real, because some of the guys I see who really push for polygamy, a lot of times they're bums. You know, they don't have anything going for them. They're straight up bums, man. You know, they don't have revenue streams, like real revenue streams. They don't have multiple revenue streams. They don't have any assets. They don't have any investments. They don't have anything. And they're like, yeah, but these sisters need to do it, because if you read here, you know, in the scriptures, it tells us that. Man, that wasn't talking about you. That was talking about men. You ain't a man yet. So that information wasn't for you.
Lafayette, everybody. Boy, AT.
There we go. Akbo Akto. Almost Shango.
You been called up.
Yeah, I called him right up, man. I wish I had him here earlier for my imitation, my Idris Elba. You know, he does some imitations well.
But Chief, in that same show, I thought one of the things that was dope was when you were breaking down the idea that, you know, plurality is also like a mindset. So it was like the man has to also have more than one thing going on himself. You know, like you're just saying, the multiple revenue streams, that he's a man that's got a lot of things going on, but has got a lot of things going on well.
Right.
As an indicator that he can actually take care of more than one situation, more than one woman at the same time. Because a lot of people just can't do it, regardless of whether or not they think they can.
Right. Exactly. And again, it doesn't have to equate to plurality. I mean, you're a great example of that, Brother Charles. You have multiple things going on. Right. But, you know, I know you don't define yourself. You're not a polygamist, you know, but you have other businesses, and you have a couple businesses, and then you have the other collective that you do with the other brothers. And then you also have your regular gig, you know, not to mention your family. Like you mentioned, I have a 5-year-old daughter, you know, so those are the things that should be looked for. You know, how many things are being held, and because when you're dealing with plurality, you're dealing with an individual who is controlling a universe, and his orbit and his gravitational pull has to be strong enough to bring these planets into his orbit and to keep them magnetically on course. You know, but if he's all over the place, he doesn't know what he wants to do today, and he's got this idea and that idea and doesn't know how to get each one off or whatever, then you know, he's going to bring people into a whole lot of insanity. You know, that's essentially what happens. He just brings people into a lot of insanity, man. So yeah, you're absolutely right, man. It's about how many dynamics you can handle at the same time. And you know, just going back to the original piece, like, is plurality the answer? No. Men are the answer. Men have always been the answer. That's it. So the more men that we create and turn out into the world, the better our community will look. Period. And we have to be careful, like on that segment that you're referencing, which there's a part 2 out, by the way, everybody. Let me just let you know that the sister put out a part 2 last night. So you could, if you enjoyed that first conversation, you probably enjoy the next one too. All right. Um, but anyway, we have to be able to make that distinction between males and men. And yeah, the rest of the world will say black men are doing this or these men ain't no good. But we have to be able to hear what's being said. So that's why when the sister said that, and I said, well, she said, do you mean all men? Yeah, all men. Because men are like me and I'm like them. Males, that's something different. I don't, unless you're a boy, if you're an adult male, I'm not in that world with you. I don't know what they're into. I'm not even speaking for them, because just like in any African sense, if you're an adult boy, the village doesn't even acknowledge you as a member. So I'm not looking at these individuals for anything. I'm not, just like I don't look at Uncle Tom's and say, how am I going to service the Uncle Tom's? I don't see them. I'm focused on those who are striving for true adulthood, striving for true reclamation, and are really trying to transform on this planet. Those are the ones that I care about. Everyone else, I don't care anything about them. That's just the truth. And I know when we look at priests and stuff like that, we're supposed to say like, oh, you love everybody. I don't care about everybody. I just don't. And neither do you. It's okay to say it. That's why when there's a shooting in Texas, our heart goes out, right? There was a big time thing in Egypt. You know what I mean? There was a big bomb and shooting, at a mosque in Egypt. And these are people who are more connected to you, who were on the air listening. I'm gonna tell you why. Because they were dealing with Sufism, which is the mysticism of Islam. So these were your brothers and sisters in the magical arts were gunned down. But ain't nobody really talking about it because you don't really care that much because it wasn't down the street. Again, that social engineering tries to make you believe what, or tell you what should be important to you and what's not important to you. So all I'm just saying is that in terms of the plurality, the dynamics are important to be able to handle different dynamics, but the solution to building this community and nation building is men. Men are the Messiah. I don't care how many people, you can listen to as many of these conscious idiots that you want to. And I'm just going to put it out there like it is now, man. I know I don't always give you all the most flowery of speech, man, but there's so many channels you can tune in for that garbage. These conscious idiots are going to lead you to the bottom of the ocean. They are telling you that one gender is God. That's retarded. God has no gender. Okay, stupid stuff like that to pander to you because they're broke bums who didn't build anything, so they're trying to get rich off of your ignorance. That's all they're doing. What you don't know in your ignorance, they come out, they do lectures, they rehash stuff, they keep rehashing it, and you keep paying for it. At some point you got to pull back, man, and say, you know what, if this isn't, like Brother Charles said about his house, if this isn't tearing down my foundations, knowing that my foundations were built on plantation mentality, that's all of us. And I don't care what race you are, white, black, yellow, red, we all came up underneath this Anglosphere. If you can understand what I'm saying right now, that means you speak English. And if you speak English, that means you got the mark of the beast in your forehead. All right. So all of us coming up underneath this Anglosphere and this Western culture and plantation, we all have plantation mentality. And that's the foundations of our childhood that we need to rebuild. That's why, again, when we talk about the trauma and I say, yeah, well, people didn't get a certain amount of love and this and that, and they made all of these early life decisions that were bad choices and bad decisions. That was a product of your plantation mentality that you had since you were 5, 6, 7 years old. So if you don't really have teachers and instructors that are pointing to that, and I know it hurt, I know it's a sore spot, and mainly because this society has taught you to build defense mechanisms. They built the fortress inside of your center and then created a militaristic force inside of you to guard what they put inside of you. It's like going to another country and building the AFRICOM base. You go to Africa and let's say the U.S. builds a military base in the middle of Africa. The people don't even want it there, but then they train the people like buffalo soldiers to guard it. They don't even know what they're guarding. They're not even really allowed to go inside, but they know that this whatever's happening inside of there, it affects the economy and the culture of their land. But but whenever they try to get close to figure out what it is, they got guns put in their face. That's what's inside of all of us who came up underneath this system, who have plantation mentality. That's why the most honorable Dr. Clark said, you're going to be dealing with this until the day you die, cleaning this out of you until the day you die. You see, you're going to be scrubbing that stuff. Like I use the reference, scrubbing it from your brain, your cell walls in your brain. You're going to be scrubbing this culture and this mentality from your brain to the day you die. That's just what it is, man. So the answer is becoming men. And when you become men, you become self-directed. You become self-determined, self-defining, and the people who are attracted to what that self is and what that direction is and what that Kuji Chakalia determination is, they'll come along, but you ain't got to convince anybody, man. You're going to waste your time. You could spend 3-4 years trying to convince somebody. You know what you can get done in 3-4 years? Come on, Jack. You could be a millionaire in 4 years, man. And you over here convincing some bobble-headed idiot about how they need to listen. No, man. Let them go with the jackals, man. Let them get toe up. Because there's people out here. A lot of times we ignore the good ones because we're busy trying to convince the morons. And that's the game. That's the trick. That's the decoy trick. Yep. Even the Bible doesn't do that.
Good deal.
Even the Bible. I'm gonna say one thing for y'all jumping, man. Yeah, I'm on it. Even the Bible doesn't do that, man. What is the word that the Bible has for the sinner? Get saved. Every other advice after that is for people who are already in the religion. If you read the Bible, there's nothing in it that says, okay, well, if you choose not to get saved and you want to still try it out, let me just give you some good advice to get through life while you figuring out if you want to be over here with us. No, it says every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that Jesus is Lord. Now, once you do that, then you open yourself up to the gifts of God's promises. Man, these hoes keep posting in the damn chat room. Yeah, you keep getting this spam, this whole spam. Lazy hoes, man. They need to hit the concrete. So that's the problem with this new generation now. Everyone do it. They hoeing from the computer. Digihoes. Call 1-800-Digihoes. You better hit that concrete. Yeah, E-hoes. You keep getting the spam in the chat room. But yeah, man. So that's really what it is, man. You got to come into some awareness, man. But if you keep playing with it and teeter-tottering on the outside of it, no, you're not gonna get anywhere. So even the new message, man, I don't, like you guys were talking earlier about the nation building and participation and things like that. It's because we're broadcasting on a public platform so anybody can listen. So you don't know if they've bought in or not. And most of them haven't bought in. They just listen because, oh, he's kicking some real stuff. And that's the end of it. They're not listening because they're like, yeah, let me get my next orders. What is he talking about this week? Or what are they talking about this Sunday? So I figure out, how I should move in my next move so we can form this thing together like Voltron. They're not thinking like that. And you got to be aware of that so you don't waste your time. Still, like, used to hear Kim do that on the segments. Y'all can call in now. You ain't got, and I used to get in, jump on the line. No, man, don't be telling them all that. Basically, I'm saying F these people. If they're not calling in, you ain't got to sit there and be trying to figure out how to negotiate for them to talk. No. Because now you're seeing who's who and what's what. That's the beauty of it. Some people are here because they just want to listen. Maybe Chief might say something funny, or Zach could say a funny joke. Charles is so insightful. Anwar is so cool. Boom, 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 boom. And then other people are like, yeah, I'm really not only trying to get my life together, I'm trying to get our lives together. And I'm out here doing things, and I'm trying to service the community. You have those too, and that's the ones I'm talking to. And if I could segment them, and get rid of all the dead weight, if there was a way I could do that digitally, trust me, I would. But YouTube is the easy way to go for now.
There's something that keeps on coming up with what Chief is speaking on, and he's right on. And it keeps on popping in my mind is learning from your losses, and mainly for the men, because it's something I'm going through too. Is like you consistently have to, even if you lose or you fail at something, consistently determine that Kuji Jagaliga, continuously keep on going, moving forward, and trying to experiment as much as you can until you make the win, or until you make treadway. And I think that's another statement that we could say for the men, is that when you're trying to build your nation, you're trying to build your community, don't get distracted by not being able to accomplish your goals in the first try. You've got to continue to keep trying different ways, experimenting, just so you can build what you're aiming for, because not everything gets built correctly the first time. Sometimes you have to break that down and then have to rebuild it again, just so it's stable and the structure's stable. So, it's something that keeps on popping up while Chief was speaking, was that, don't learn to find a win in your losses, and make sure your losses are you're learning from your losses and you're growing from your losses. Until you get the win, then you have to move on and still continue to build on that win. So it's something that just keeps on popping up while Chief was speaking.
There's a line that you just made me think of when you was talking about that was in that Jay-Z where it says, "I will never lose, but even in defeat, there's a valuable lesson learned, which evens it up for me." But at the same time, when I start to look at that, and just even listening to what Chief was just building on, it's like, and I want to ask this question too, is like, where do you see when people would hit that, like if I hit a defeat, I had a defeat, and it was something that you said Dr. Clark was building on, was saying that, this is something that's you're going to be scraping away from your mind to the day that you die. And you almost insert the movie The Matrix, when the man was, I forgot his name, but he was like, man, I just want to taste a steak. I just want to go back again, and then I hit that wall where, it was cool at first. I saw it, it was cool trying to be a part of a nation and build something, but you know what? This is too much. Like, where do you see people when they start to hit that wall, or when they start doing some things that can start to be done to overcome that? Or does that even matter and you just let them go anyway?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't care anything about them. Either you got the heart for this or you don't. Let's look at these segments. Go back to the first I knew as Sophos. How many hosts have y'all heard so far already? Come on, let's keep it real. How many women have you heard? Right? Let's keep it real. Everyone doesn't have the stamina and endurance for this, man. Some people will do things and come in because they want to be close to me. They want to try to get some of my information, or they want to try to get something else, and then others will come in because it's truly what's in their heart. That's just the truth of it. And what you have to do is, as long as you play the game to perfection from beginning to end, it doesn't matter if they come and go. It's just like when you join a company and they may have there may be a certain company or store, like Starbucks or Old Navy. These type of stores have very high turnover rates, man. You don't see the same people working in them for years and years and years, but the way they fashion and shape their systems, if you come and go, it doesn't throw everything off. They still make sure that they get their labor out of you for every day that you're there. So it's about how you craft your system, so it's the same thing when you're nation building. You got people that you're running with. You make sure that, first of all, they earn their spot. You don't just put people in next to you because they say they want to be next to you. You put them, whether if you got to give them grunt work, but you make sure for every day that they're there doing the work with you, that they're doing something. So that way, if they fall off, as people often do, because a lot of people, like I said, they don't really have a heart for people like that. A lot of people get into this work because they want to be something. They want to be somebody. That's why, after their first reading, they're talking about, yeah, I'm supposed to get initiated, and I'm supposed to be this, and I'm supposed to be that, and that's the difference between, kind of my school, that I was raised in, and what we have today. Everything now is very microwave. It's very instant gratification. So as soon as you got people who've been in consciousness for 2 years, and now they're on YouTube teaching, calling themselves master teachers and whatnot, because they want to be something so bad. They want a title so bad. But when it really comes down to having the character, to sustain what it is that you say you want to be, that character was never built up in them because they went too fast. You know, so now that you're in this position because you wanted to be something, and now that you see what's really required of you or how unsexy it could be, you know, because it's sexy at first, you know, wow, yeah, you up there, you talking and everybody's listening to you and calling you this and calling you that and this, and it seems really cool and really exciting until they see what goes into that, you know, or until they experience some of the back end of it where, you know, people try to destroy what you built, or people are cursing you out, or people are lying on you and things like that, all that back end stuff that's not so sexy, and they drop out because they never had the character to be in that place because they just wanted to be something. They didn't really want to do anything, you know. So you just let them fall by the wayside, but you make sure that every way through that you're playing the game by the rules. If you play the game by the rules of the T, you won't really lose anything as people come in and leave. So let's say, like, if you're nation building, you say, okay, as a part of being a part of what I'm doing, you have to go through a certain process. Let's say it's an orientation process or registration process, whatever it is, but you're not going to touch anything until you go through this process. I'm not letting you near anything of significance, you know, until you go through this actual process. Well, if they leave, they don't make it through boot camp or whatever, it's really no skin off your back. But then maybe after they go through the process, they're given grunt work to do. So at least you're getting your grunt work done. But at the same time, if they drop off and leave, it doesn't really affect everything that you're building. You know, so let's say, for instance, if you take a physical interpretation, you're building a building somewhere, and someone jumps and say, yeah, I want to build that with you. I want to build that with you. Okay, cool. Well, do you know how to do this? Know how to do that? No, I don't know how to do none of that. Ah, okay. So that you say like this, all right, well, listen, this is what I want you to do then. We're thinking about putting a flower garden over there. All I want you to do is to weed over there and you know, create a square over there and dig up some of that stuff and take the rocks out of the soil over there so we can plant some flowers. Now, the job that you gave them was an addendum and an annex to the real work. So if they do it, cool. You got an enhancement there, something extra is going on. If they fall off, no big deal. It doesn't slow up the machine at all. You know, so it's about having systems, man. Systems keep you from having to be overly concerned about who comes and goes, because when it comes to our people, they're going to come and go, you know, because they're coming for all different kinds of reasons. And a lot of times we're so traumatized and we're so damaged. The more serious and the more intense the work gets, the closer it gets to their own internal pain. And there's so many other options. You know, there's so many other places they go. They can go to goddess so-and-so, or they can go to king so-and-so, or this one and that one, and they can get their ego stroked over there and go get some garbage information and not have to deal with the pain of real nation building that's happening over here, what I knew. So it's a filtering process where you get rid of the suckers. And I don't want any suckers around me. I don't want any suckers in I knew, so it works out.
Give thanks for that, Bubba. I was thinking back to one of the shows that you had, and you was talking about simping, and that's something that I had to really sit back and look at. Like, am I simping, or am I thinking with my slave man? And that has me remove a lot of access that's not supposed to be around me. So I give thanks for that, man. Just that, and pay attention to what's happening and what's going on around me, how it pertains to me, and why I attracted it. So like that, the whole, and I think that was brother Zach was saying that earlier about you just do what you gotta do, and if people don't like it, you just finna be upset. So I had to let that gene go of making everybody happy, because one thing I did notice is when you stay on your deen and when you follow your Odu and do what you're supposed to be doing, people gonna leave regardless, but it's just them they're being taken out of your way so you can get done what you really got to get done. Because a lot of these people are just ankle weights. You know, they don't do nothing but keep you down, keep you moving fast like you're supposed to. So like I said, I give thanks for that. I needed this today.
For sure.
And thanks for that.
Absolutely. And here's something for all you men to think about when you're looking at all the people who come and go. and or the people who threaten to come and go and stuff like that because of what you've committed your life to. Who exactly does a man need? You really think about that for a second. Who do you really need in your life? What do you're a man. The whole essence of your manhood is based around solitude and independence. So when you get locked into an idea that you need another person to get anything done as a man, not as a woman you do need. All right. So before the feminists jump up and say, that's what I'm talking about. No, we're built differently. The value of the man is his independent, which allows him several things. Like right now, you hear all the things that I'm saying that probably are very inflammatory for a lot of people. The reason I can say these things is because I'm independent. I don't need anyone. I don't have women in my life who are like, if you say this, I'm not going to give you this, so I'm going to leave you. Well, go on. I don't need you. I let the welfare feed you. You know, so you're not important on that level. You know, the only thing that's important is what I'm here to do. Everything else is a mistress. Like I said that on a men's call. I gave up some game once. I said, you know, treat your life purpose as your main woman and treat your main woman as your side chick. And you'll always do well in life. You know, so the thing is, and I know again that's inflammatory. Side chick, I ain't nobody's side. All right, go ahead, fool. I'm giving some real wisdom here. Okay, not that foolishness you're going, the black woman is God because she took care of you. A mother rat takes care of a baby rat. Is the mother rat God? You know, come on, man. Don't be so feeble-minded. Step it up. You know?
You know what's interesting though, Chief, is that since you've been talking, I'm looking in the chat room, and the chat room is flooded with comments from the sisters, actually.
Well, again, because
is commenting and actually agreeing with what you're saying.
Affirmations, because you know what it is. It's the spirit of the leadership is always going to attract like spirits. So a lot of the women who are in I knew are real rugged. You know, some of them are fresh out of the pen, man. They're at the bottom of their situation, they've been hearing garbage all of their lives. Most of the women who are in I knew came out of the church. You know, and don't forget too, Brother Charles, there's a lot who did leave too. Some of them, you know. There's a lot of said, man, F this, I ain't taking this. He ain't gonna keep on belittling me, because you know they couldn't hear what was really being said. But then there's other sisters who are like, nah, he's not belittling us, he's upgrading us. He's telling us what's really what. So yeah, that's a very interesting phenomenon that you bring up that I have noticed several times. I said, oh, look at that. They hanging in there, you know, and
yeah,
it's the quality. It speaks to the quality of them. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying, no, I don't want to cut you off, but I was saying, yeah, when you turned up the heat, it didn't necessarily burn people. It kind of invited people to come sit by the campfire.
Not the right ones, but keep in mind, we only got 42 people listening. Right? So we got 42 people listening. That ain't really saying much. That's just a small little campfire. You know, the amount of people listening.
18 of them jumped on in the last 25 minutes though.
Right. Yeah, I saw it because we were flowing around 29 viewers. You know, because I'm looking at the stats while y'all going, and then when I started talking, it bumped up to now. Actually, we're at 44 now. Okay, you know, but that's still very small. That's a very, very small nucleus considering the value of what you are all hearing. You can go on and I'm not going to mention anybody, but you can go on a lot of the phonies channels right now who may be speaking. You're going to see 1,000 listening, 800, 700 listening live, and they ain't talking about anything. You know, so I always key on that. So those sisters who are here who are saying, yeah, man, these hoes is still here, man. These hoes ain't loyal. So they keep popping. Maybe that's a good sign. We're getting all this porno spam. maybe that means we've arrived. You ain't saying nothing until you get some porno spam in the chat room. But yeah, you know, it's still a very small nucleus, right? So when you look at that, you realize that these are the special ones. That's how I look at it. You know, like, yeah, there's not 600 people listening live, 700 people listening live, 500, whatever. Now, I've had that before when I was doing a live call-ins along with the YouTube. On average, we had about maybe 300-400 people, sometimes more, listening live. But that's because it was live and people could call in with the dumbness, and you know, I curse them out, hang up the phone, you know, all that. So it was entertaining for them, you know. But now when we doing segments which is straight wisdom, you know, the most I'll get live now is maybe 100 people, which is nothing. That's like an empty room. That's nothing. But again, it just speaks to the value, the quality of the people who are actually here. These are the special ones.
Does that speak to again of what's been implanted in one's mind, of what, you know, how one is raised, when even if you look at a guy and he's not doing well, and they say, you know, if he just had him a good sister that would clean him up, or other sayings go like, a happy wife makes a happy life. So if I can just keep, or if it's ladies' night, then this guy would transform into what this woman you think she would want, or just to keep a smile on her face in order to now gain some popularity and notoriety. But then you hear somebody saying, you know what, this is what I'm doing and this is what I am. Take it or leave it. It's like, nah, you know what, I'd rather run and be pandered to, and from this other side. Like, is that really what leads up into, or is this more so I just want to be liked?
Manhood is outlawed, you know, where we live. Manhood is outlawed. So a lot of us know that. You know, like you hear my voice, man. My voice is real punchy. You know, like I know a lot of people say, yeah, you know, sometimes you put me to sleep, because, you know, my normal resting voice is very kind of monotone and calm, but at the same time, I can be a little punchy. And that by itself is like, whoa, calm down, whoa, and I'm calm. I'm laughing, and I'm sitting on a sofa talking to y'all right now. You know, so it don't get too much more calm than this, but it's that testosterone and that manhood that's been outlawed and criminalized even. You know, you can get shot and you could get tased just for having a voice like mine. You know, because I don't switch when I walk. I ain't got hips. You know, I don't wear little pink hats and, you know, and stuff like that. You know, so I'm already in a position where bad things can happen to me. So there's a lot of guys who are in tune with that on a subconscious level. You know, they know. It's kind of like when you look at a lot of people who are 6'3" plus. A lot of them have bad posture. You know, because they start to feel self-conscious about their height, so they're always walking hunched over, you know, to try to blend in and fit in with everybody. Even though you can't, you 6'3", 6'4", you know, it's obvious. It doesn't matter how much you hunch over, you know, but you see that often. So a lot of times it has to do with that, man. It's the solitude of manhood. They don't want to be out in the front. Like, I'll give you Legero, and I may be pronouncing that wrong. I'm sorry, from the chat room. Legero Davis said it'll come, and in response to what I was saying about the numbers on the shows. No, they're not going to come. This is what it is. This ain't no new segment. I've been doing this for 7 years, and everybody knows me. Anywhere I go, somebody's like, "Yeah, I listen to Chief yeah." This is what it is. So you have to be able to kind of get to that point where you're not concerned about how many people you affect. Only thing you need to be concerned about is the vibration that you're putting out into the world. And that's it. You know, be concerned about the quality of life that you're adding out into the world environment, period. And it's going to be varying numbers of people who are going to rock with you for different reasons, and some are not. It doesn't even matter. I don't care if there was 3 people on the line. You know, I did a seminar once where this woman did the advertisement and stuff, the promotion for the seminar, and she messed up the date on the advertisements. And I went to this hall, and there was literally one person there. One person. Because the date was wrong. And this person just knew because somehow, I don't know, she saw a posting on like Craigslist. I don't even know how it got on Craigslist. Somebody must have just did that, you know. And she was like, I saw it on Craigslist. It was weird that you were going to be here this day, but all the other flyers and stuff said next week. And I said, yeah, well, you got the right date. So I said, hey, it's me and you then. Come on. And, you know, I came down off the podium, sat down in front of her. We just put our chairs in front of each other and just went in with her, you know, and built with her, and then let her ask the questions like if I was talking to a room, you know, because the room probably fit about maybe about 300-400 people, you know, but it was me and this sister. You know, and I was just as I'm cool. That this is what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to get messed up. This, that, and of course, she felt bad and everything. And I'm like, hey, don't worry about it. It is what it. You still gonna pay me this money, so it doesn't really matter. I'm still gonna get this honorarium. That's on you. but but you know, that's the thing, man. As a man, again, you have to look at, what do you really need? You don't need anyone. You don't need anyone to listen to you, you know, in order for you to build something. You don't need anyone to like you. You don't need anyone to follow with you. You know, you don't need any of those things. The only thing that you need is you know, and that's what you have to kind of lock into your mindset. And then you just keep putting out value. Just keep putting value out into the world. And it's going to hit people who don't even tell you that it hit them. You know, or like sometimes, like I said, people steal my stuff a lot. They steal my stuff and they get way more views on their videos. But what I put out into the world still hit people, even if it was by way of someone else plagiarizing. You know, so sometimes as men, we're just too in tune and looking too much for the echo and the reverberation on what we're doing. Or we like to hear ourselves talk a little bit too much. Just put it out, keep it moving, go on to the next thing.
What a time to be alive, man. That's all I keep thinking when I hear you speak, man. What a time, what a beautiful challenge that's in front of all of us, and what a beautiful time it is to be alive right now, and what a beautiful time it is that we can actually go and attack it. Because, I mean, at some point in time, somebody got to do it. And if it doesn't, but like one of the challenges is there may not be per se a blueprint that's in front of somebody that's telling you how to do it. And that's one of the kind of like the little scary and daunting things is you don't know really if you're doing it right.
Right.
Is that something too what prevents people from even getting and starting to move in that direction?
In which
but what's the right way to what's the right way to do your purpose though?
Right.
Right. Well,
right. That's the question. What Brother Charles just said. That's the answer. What is the right way to do your purpose? If you and here, this is how it goes. The right way to do your purpose is based on what the elders in the spiritual ecosystem tell you. But how many of us have that? So if I find out my purpose is to teach, then the first thing I'm going to be taught about are different archetypes in our mythology of teachers. If I'm a teacher, I got to learn about Orunmila. Right. So once I learn about Orunmila, I learned about how he walked all over the place. He traveled. So then the first thing I understand, well, if my purpose is to teach, I got to travel. Okay, that's easy. Well, who was Orunmila married to? Well, he was with Oshun. Okay, cool. So I understand I got to be mated with an Oshun energy. So the archetypes kind of tell you, but the only way I would know those things is if I grew up inside of an environment that put me up on those things to say, hey, when I was a baby, this boy came here to teach, or this boy came here to do this or that, or this young lady came here to share this information, to do that. And then we start aligning them with those particular, see, that's where your initiations come in. We start aligning them with those particular spiritual families in order for them to know how to do things. But if you're not coming up in that kind of environment, it's very difficult. And when there's no elders to say, look, I did that. So this is how you do it. This is how you don't do it. Me coming up in a certain environment, I looked at certain teachers, all of our greats, all of the ones that y'all read, the books y'all read, the video, I studied all of them. And I looked at the things that I really liked that they did. And I looked at some of the things that they don't like. Like, for instance, one of my I always cite him when people ask me about public speaking. Jesse Jackson is my favorite speaker of all time. I could listen to Jesse Jackson all day and night. I'll take Jesse Jackson over a good meal. Right? Now, whenever I say that, people always like, Jesse Jackson, he's a sellout. Yeah, he is. But you didn't ask me about that. I'm talking about the way he as an MC. Oh my goodness! Like the only one who could really rival Jesse Jackson would be like Rakim. You know, he's like the Rakim of public speaking. You know, he's a brilliant the way his inflection. You know, and in fact, he really comes from that Martin Luther King school, because that's really where he got his style from. Martin Luther King's another one. You know, so these are two people who I look at and say, man, these guys are amazing. So when I started speaking, I learned how to do some of the things that they did. And, you know, I'm not kicking a bunch of rhymes and stuff like Jesse, but learned how to utilize some of the way that they string a story together, string an idea together, how they come out with their punchlines and, you know, this and that. But these would be considered like elders that give you a path of which way to go once you know what you're here to do. You know, so a lot of times that eldership is lacking, and that's where the problem comes in.
That's what one of my elders had said. She was like, you know, you got all these people that want to be Baba this, Star Elays, and give all this information, but look to see who got elders around them. That lets you know the value of the information, or if they're even sanctioned to say that.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that to heart. Like if your elders don't promote you, forget what everybody else got to say, because they don't know nothing at all. But if the elders say, okay, yeah, you go do that, or I need you to help me do that, or yeah, you're right. That's the only thing to me that's valid when it comes to saying or doing anything with regards to the tradition or any type of teaching.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There has to be a line. There has to be a lineage. And I wanted to address something that came in the chat room. I saw a question. Let's see if I can find it. My sister Esme, she had asked about, okay, she said, can a woman help with the organization and direction in life? I remember a phrase you mentioned in a segment before, when older heads would tell the younger they need a woman in their life. Okay, so I'm not sure the context and and why I said that statement. So I'm not sure. So I can't really speak to that too much, but I can talk about your first question. Can women help with the organization and the direction? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we talk about freedom and liberation, we ain't just freeing up men. You know, so we're talking about, like I said, even when you're dealing with IFA, it's a family-based system. You know, so one of the first things, and I think I mentioned that I probably shouldn't even answer this question, but I'm gonna give it to you because I already started, because I'm actually repeating myself at this point. Last Strong, I said this, and I said that women being the problem reporters, they kind of give you a sense of what you need to do as a male nation building. You know, they let you know, yeah, I'm going to need this, I'm going to need that, and we need this. Just like when you're having a baby or you're doing certain things, she lets you know, if she knows, you know, or maybe it's her aunties who let her know, or her mother, they let you know all the things that's going to be necessary. They might come into your house and they say, oh, you got to cover up these outlets, and you're going to have to childproof these kitchen cabinets and this and that. You know, you ain't ready to have no baby, man. You know, and they put you to task. You know, is that lead paint? That paint's chipping. Nah, you know, my grandbaby ain't gonna be up in here with all this chipping lead paint. You know, so that's part of what the women do, man. They kind of they're shorter. You guys are shorter. You're wider down low. So you know your thing is about that lower center of gravity. Your thing is about being connected to that earth chakra a bit more. You know, so you let us know what the land is saying. You know, these are the things that are happening in the immediate environment that we're going to need you to do, because as men, we can ignore a lot because we come from an independent space. You know, and some of those things like clean towels, you know, clean bed sheets, stuff like that, that a woman will say, you know, and I'm giving very crude examples, but you know, that's primarily, you know, her role is to report. Now, as far as the idea, like, okay, well, she's going to sit at the table and we're all going to sit at a round table and we're going to all decide what we're going to do. No, I taught that in a segment on strategy and tactics. A man determines the strategy, the woman determines the tactics. So the strategy is the plan, the overall plan. This is what we're going to do. And the tactics are how we're going to get it done. You know, so a man may say, you know, I want my children to speak 4 different languages. Man, Nancy, these hoes. A man may say that I want my children to speak 4 different languages, and then he may leave the house. You know, he may go off to do something else. And the woman now, she creatively comes up with a way to figure out how to teach the children the languages. Strategy and tactics. That's the mating there.
You know, and one of the things that I hear too is when I'm speaking to a couple of different ladies, they ask like, okay, then well, what is necessarily when you spoke about it before as the role, but then when some people hear the role, they immediately get turned off. Then when they hear it, I'm like, well, you're supposed to just leave me and I'm supposed to do all of this like that. Then that's where the conversation starts to go is, hold on, or you're not going to be around as much. So am I supposed to do all of this by myself?
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes that direction. So then now what is it just, it is what it is and you keep going, or is it like, you come to some kind of agreement in between that?
If you haven't built some form of community support around that woman, then you shouldn't have her anyway. You know, so if she's like, am I going to do this by myself? No, you're going to do this with my, my uncle's here, my cousin, my sister's here, your sister wife, and
right.
And the truth is, a lot of times when getting with women, one of the things that sometimes our women lack, sadly, which I'm going to tell this to you ladies, just so you know, for those of us who are out here building and creating empires, I'm going to tell you something that's real attractive that you may not know about. How many sister friends you have. And I'm talking about sane, real sister friends, not the bird heads that become a problem when we don't let them inside of a house. But I'm talking about, some of you women, you like to go on trips with your girlfriends and, whatever, like, y'all just have really close relationships. That's attractive because we know that you're not going to be pulling on us for everything. We don't have to go see every movie with you and things like that. Again, very base example. So if a woman is feeling like, okay, I'm gonna be here left alone, that means you didn't provide something to begin. There's 2 things happening. One, she probably has no friends, which is common for a lot of women that you meet. They tell you, I don't really have any friends. Well, you shouldn't really mess with a woman like that. That means she's probably unfriendly. Or you say, well, where's your sisters and your aunties and your cousins? I don't really talk to my family like that. Well, if your family don't even rock with you, why should I? And then if I'm gonna have children with you, who's going to be the support system for those children if you don't even rock with your family or you don't even have any friends? So now you're going to completely monkey branch onto my support system. So that means now if we split up or something goes foul, you're going to see how many of my friends you can pull over to your side with you. It's like that meme I put up a while ago with the dragon, the red dragon falling from the sky and taking 1/3 of the angels out of heaven with it. Because the dragon, and you didn't come up here with anybody. You pulling all my angels out of the sky as you fall. So one of the things that you want to look at is a woman who actually has a life, who has a world, who has a social circle, who has friends that she cares about, who has family members that she cares about. If that's not really in place, you don't really need to be trying to build what you think you're building with her. And if you don't have the same thing, so when you go away, you can tell, or ask your father or ask your brother, hey, check in on the family for me or whatever, then you're not ready. No, you're not ready.
And this is just one of the things that I am so appreciative of is what you just said of having those elders and having people that you can lean on. Because I was talking to Brother Randy about this earlier, just being able to bounce ideas off of somebody who is further along than one, again, just starting off and be like, I don't know what to do. So then now you just start taking hits, shots that really you don't even need to take. And it's not necessary because somebody further along has already done this.
Right.
So when we start talking about a nation and just even having that purpose and knowing what your purpose and then that blueprint of just saying, you know what, and then having someone like you to say, what is this? Well, you probably should go left. You went right, but now next time just look left. Now, oh, you know what? Thanks, man. I appreciate that because now this saves so much time of repeating the same thing and having to just keep chasing the tail over and over again, just doing the same thing. Like, here we go, the same conversation. And even it says in the beginning, like, can we have a new thought? Can we have a new conversation? And it's just, and I haven't even, not even close, been in this as long as you have. And it's like every time I see it, it's just the same thing over and over again. And then you got a woman say, well, what about the women? And then the men, well, then they, oh yeah, what we gonna do over here? And I'm like, dude, this been said like years ago, even the old lectures that I look at. Now, what are we gonna start to do and implement now that we can start to build on? And then it's like you start to see, even when we have elders, which Brother Deidre was talking about, it's like now it's even tough sledding to find some sane elders who you can get some good guidance from that who ain't still battling with some of the same issues.
Well, y'all ain't little boys.
You finally can.
That's what it is. I mean, y'all ain't little boys y'all ain't little boys anymore. You know, you don't realize some of you about to start having some gray hair soon. So you keep trying to hide in there. Yeah, we need some elders, young men like y'all ain't young no more. Y'all don't even know the right clothes to wear. You know what I mean? So no, you know, when you get to a certain point, you realize that you're the elder. That's the thing. You know, and like I say, yeah, back home, eldership doesn't start until you're like in your 80s practically. Really, it's your early 70s. Most places that I've been, you know, but when I'm out and I'm moving and I'm working, most people call me the elder because I am the elder. You know, I've been the elder since I was 30 because things move differently over here. You know, the onslaught is differently. So if you waiting for like a bunch of old people to come out of the woods, you know, or you know, like you know, if you build it, they will come and they're gonna come with their canes and their dashikis and they're gonna tell you, yeah, this is what we nah, ain't gonna happen, man. They do not exist. You know, a lot of old people it's just old slaves. You know, so if you have the consciousness with you now, you're going to have to understand that you are probably going to be the elders that you're hoping for. Is you. You know, so the people that you cool with now, you know, the people in I knew or whomever, get it off of Facebook, man, you know, and wherever else you meet and start to be where each other are, you know, because that's going to be the counsel that's going to help to guide these children coming under, man. But, you know, you could see that even what I knew. I mean, let's look at the men's call. You ain't got no old men in the men's call. Yeah, ain't no old men in there. Ain't no 70 pluses on that men's call. And the women's call, you ain't got that either. It's even worse. So some of y'all who thinking y'all still young, you ain't young. You ain't little boys no more, man. Y'all are going beyond that men's stage and going straight to elder, because that's what we need. That's what we need. You listen to them earlier segments. You didn't ever hear me refer to myself as any kind of title until it became more and more abundantly clear that that's what was needed. So the people kept, I mean, what's going on out there, man? Y'all in the ghetto doing transactions. But I know the sound of a transaction. You better keep it moving. You hot, son. But but no, you know, that's just the thing, man. You got to be in tune with what's needed and what's needed of you right now and what you're able to do, because I would still love to be a little child in this. I would love to be a little child. I would love to kind of just be told what to do and, you know, where it was years ago, but I can't. You know, I can't. It's that time has passed, and the people who I thought would have stepped up never stepped up. So now I am the guy. You know, heck, you even hear in some of the earlier segments me say I ain't got enough gray hairs in my beard. Well, if you look at some of the videos now, I don't know if any of you can see the difference. I got a bunch of gray hairs on my chin now. I didn't have those even a year ago. They just popped up all of a sudden. That's saying something. That silverback is you really becoming a silverback. All right, well, let's do this then. If this is what it's going to be. You know, brothers like Brother Byron, who I always say, yeah, that's Big Brother Byron for a lot of you brothers. But he steps into that role. He's not trying to be a little boy. You know, he steps into that elder role. So those of us who are 30, 35 plus, chances are we the elders that we're looking for. Because the ones who's really out here is going to make things happen and really got the energy and the vigor to make stuff happen might be the 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And the only reason you may not be seeing them as much as you'd like to is because what you're delivering in terms of presentation and content is boring and is unnecessary. Like the brother said earlier about pyramids. Young people don't want to hear about pyramids anymore, man. I'm sorry, they just don't. It's not that interesting because we live in a hyper stimulated environment, man. It's not as interesting as CGI. You know, just some of the movies that come out. We didn't have those type of movies when we were younger in the 70s and the 80s and the 60s. So if somebody talked about a pyramid, we were still very fascinated by a building. Young people are not fascinated by physical edifices anymore. That's not interesting. So you gotta update, you know. So I would just say that to that, you know.
Oh, I appreciate that.
They are looking to see who got money and who got the biggest following at this point.
Yeah.
Who's actually effective in what they do.
And you know what? And that's even becoming an old thing because you have people in the conscious community who have played that game. One person in particular, y'all know who I'm talking about, but I'm not gonna say his name. You know, who is doing videos driving certain kind of cars and, you know, hobnobbing with celebrities and stuff like that. And that does capture the attention of a certain population of youth, but then a lot of other ones see the BS in it. And like, nah, that ain't real. You're not real. You know, so there's something, you know, one of the things that you have to do in terms of being successful in anything, especially in this country, you got to move fast and you got to be able to spot trends. What's coming next? You know, so even in terms of nation building or really teaching this information or growing as a community and growing as a collective, as opposed to always looking back, let's look at what's needed next. You know, one of the things in the men's call that I had spoke about early on was cryptocurrency. Because I knew, well, that's, you know, I mean, it's been out since 2010, but, you know, but that's where the mind, you know, we still looking at the dollar bill, looking at the symbols on it. You see the pyramid on the dollar bill, right? Right. And then you see the eagle on the dollar bill, right? Right. You know, that comes from Kemet. Who cares? You know, ain't nobody looking at that damn bill anymore. You know, but we're still stuck on that. Ain't nobody even looking at the pyramids anymore. You know, that Kemet ticket, $600-700, man. You could be in Kemet. It don't cost much. It's a cheap ticket. You know, so it's not as big a deal anymore. You know, but we got to spot the trends. What's next? If you don't look at what's next, this thing's gonna die out. You know, and I'm already working on what's next. If anybody's wondering, I just don't talk about it publicly. But yeah, even this format, us sitting on the phone, this is like talk radio. When you was a kid, did you listen to talk radio? You know what I'm saying? Nobody want to hear that crap. You know, you hated it. You know what I'm saying? I had a relative like that, man. This dude used to listen to talk radio, but he would come through the neighborhood blasting it like he was blasting a joint, like a top 40 hit. But it'd be talk radio, turn up loud, speakers bumping, you know, with talk radio. You know, it was so embarrassing. You know, so, but, you know, young people are not really interested in all that talk, man. They're interested in opportunities where they can be free. Young people are interested in freedom. Freedom is always ahead of the trending curve. If you can give freedom, you can always stay relevant. And you just try not to give that artificial freedom, you know, where it's opiates. But freedom is always, you know, or the illusion of freedom where you sign paperwork and get status correction and all that. No, but real, authentic, true freedom will always stay in style.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we way over time, man. I know I took y'all over time. I don't want to, you know, I know people want to get to whatever y'all do on Sundays. Probably get ready for Monday. Talking about plantation mentality. Mr. Charlie, like my shoe shine.
We wasn't gonna stop you while you was dropping jewels. We was just gonna keep listening.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. You know, normally I don't get to kick it with y'all on the Sunday. What the heck is that?
Appreciate you coming on.
Y'all got some weird stuff going on. I bet you it's Dietrich.
I think that's Dietrich.
You know it's Dietrich. It's always Dietrich.
That almost sounded like a money machine.
Yeah.
That almost sounded like a money machine in the back. I kind of like that sound.
Well, you know he working in the
It's
clubs
Dietrich,
and stuff,
man. It's always gonna be like some animals in the back. All kinds of stuff. Oh, man.
Yeah, man. You know I'm out here with these coons.
So we starting this again.
He over there playing Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, man.
No, but what's funny is I found an owl yesterday. And I did a little, but no, this is so I instantly went and looked up what owl medicine was, and like what the owl symbolizes is it has one eye in the light and one eye in the dark, and it's considered the bird of wisdom or the keeper of wisdom and
It's a
tradition
rumula.
because it can see what other animals can't see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and it also flies silently. So what I got from it is, you know, make your moves in silence, and when they eat the whole animal and they spit out the bones and the fur and the feathers or whatever. So when I saw it, I instantly started thinking like, why was this right here other than the fact that it's dead, and what does it mean? So that's like I've been thinking about that the past 2 days. So everything Chief has said today kind of ties in with that. Like, you know, see through the jive and pay attention to both sides of what's going on, the light and the dark side. You know, and just, you know, pay attention to, you know, see through the dark and persevere as well. So
Did
like that's what yeah.
Did you keep the bird?
Oh yeah, I still got it.
Okay, good. Yeah. Hey man, you know Dietrich's our country cousin, man. You know them country cousins, they got a different way they move. But yeah, man, you make sure before if you bury it or anything you do, you make sure you take some feathers off of it.
That's why I kept him, the feathers.
Yeah, you keep the feathers. I mean, really what we do is we do something with the bones and the blood, but you don't you know, that's another level. But what you could do is keep the feathers, you know, and just what you do is just take 3 feathers from each wing. You know, just like when we do Ebo.
All right, I'm on it. That's why I've been saving him. I've been trying to figure out how to do it because I don't want to disrespect him, but I know I know the feathers are very powerful. It's a lot of stuff you can do with owl parts. But that info right there was what I needed.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, and you can address your like if you have an Opa Egun, you know, or Egun staff, you can put the feathers on the Egun staff. Or if you have a knife that you use at your shrine, you could decorate your knife with the feathers, you know, because again, what the feathers represent, you know, but you know, remember it's an entity that's transitioned. So you can give good things that are good for transitioning, like palm oil, tobacco smoke, things that send things off at Foon. And then, you know, you can bury it in your yard or whatever if you want. But, you know, just you're going to give things that are related to transitioning in a smooth, peaceful, cool transition. That's the key.
I say I'm on it.
All right. Antonio called you the Beastmaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. So I'm gonna hand it back over to you guys because I already hijacked enough of the segment. You know. I know Charles is like, this is not what I had planned. My bad.
Charles always the first one to get out of there.
Yeah, it's football.
Man, I'm along for the ride, man. I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, right. He got on some mute. He doing something else. He probably barbecuing or something.
Absolutely. It ain't good if he ain't got the leather sandals on with the straps on them.
Like Spice Adams, you know.
Here we go.
Plaid
with
shorts.
Them jokes, man. I hear them call the case, you know, every time you click over those.
They got the Jesus 11. Get it? Yeah, man.
I bet not see nobody at the event with sweatpants with no pockets in them.
Sweatpants with no pockets. You probably will though, because we got people from all over the country coming through. So Oh, that reminds me. Yeah, good thing you said something, brother Randy. Yeah, New Orleans. Remember this strong in December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I'm gonna be out in New Orleans. The first, I'm doing a lecture. Actually, it's kind of I'm dealing with more feminine stuff. So I'm gonna be talking about healing and how to finally heal and get some of this stuff out the way and get to the next spot. So that's really gonna be my theme all strong in. But Friday I'll be at the Craig Center starting at 7. Then Saturday we doing like a I forget what she called it, man. But basically it's gonna be an intimate setting. We're gonna have some food, we're gonna have some liquor, and I'm going to be teaching some things, but then it's going to be an environment where you can also interact and ask your questions, and we can build and all that. And then Sunday in Congo Square, I'll be doing a healing tent, in Congo Square Park. So that's where you can come and get some work done, head cleansings, offerings, rituals, things like that inside the tent. As far as we can go with it. So Sunday I'll be in Congo Square. I think from like noon to 6, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So it's like a all day thing, man. And then I'm gonna actually be in that area for a couple days after. So anybody who's in New Orleans who didn't get to get a reading or whatever, Sunday, you'll have me for a couple of days. I'm not sure how long I'm gonna stay yet because I got some work that I have to do further up north for someone. I got to do an initiation. So I'm gonna hang out as long as I can, or I'm gonna be there as long as I can. I didn't mean to say hang out, but so just to let everybody know, so no, it's not gonna be available on a webinar, sis. That's good, but nah, I ain't got time to set all that up, man. I would say, will the events be recorded? They're gonna be recorded, but they're gonna be recorded for me. So yeah, I'm actually gonna have someone there recording, but I don't know if I'm gonna put them out like as whatever. So we'll see. I usually don't record that much, and that's a problem. All these years, I never had anybody ever recording. So, but lately I've been trying to do that more, but I don't always put the footage out. So I don't know if I'll put it out or not. So, but knowing me, I probably won't. So let me just warn you now. But the footage should be there, as a part of my estate when I die. But so that's what's going on there in New Orleans. And then in January, the 27th, I'll be back in Toronto. They wanted me to come back to do some more, man. So it's gonna be good. So if you missed it the first time, or some people said I'm coming back again, we're doing another event, and I gotta get back with the brother actually, brother Victor. It's a brother up there, who you all should link up with if you're on social media. You guys know I'm not on it, but he's a good brother, man. Speaking about needing brotherhood and partnership, man, he's out there or up there doing a lot of things for the community, him and his wife. And they're also looking for more people to build and connect with and do some positive things with, man. But anyway, I'll be back there January 27th, and we're talking about putting together another kind of meet and greet there while I'm there. So we're still organizing that, but definitely on the 27th. All right. So I just want all of you to kind of know, but I meant to say it earlier, but we were talking about something else. Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Much obliged too.
Yeah, y'all rhythm is off, man. What is all these pauses and delays, man? Come on, jump it. What's Zach? Where you at? What's Zach?
I'm actually I'm in the car, so
here we go.
That's why I'm a little off.
Yo,
I gotta get my too, so I'm throwing everybody off.
Yeah, this is like a messed up soul brother handshake. When you don't know to get the fist punch or to get the pound, so you end up grabbing someone's fist and then coming back, and then this is what this feels like. It's awkward.
No worries, but we're good to go. So we're coming to the end, man, and I appreciate you for jumping on here. Does anybody have any final words before we go ahead and make our exit?
Hey, y'all check me out on Instagram, Elbow Shrine Services. If you got a theater elbow, want to keep the skull, want to do something with the feathers, hit me up on Instagram. I do all of that.
Oh, that's you.
Skull cleaning, all of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I saw that on Instagram. I didn't know that was you. Okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
Brother Charles, Brother Randy.
Anyone else got any
Oh yeah, I just
shameless
wanna,
plugs?
you know, thank you, thank you. Just thanks to Chief for jumping on the call. Thanks for all the brothers that jumped in and shared their insights. Thank you for all those in the chat room continuing the conversation. You know, we do this every fourth Sunday or every last Sunday of the month. It's an open panel to all the students. So if you're a student and you want to jump in, this is the place to do it. Share your ideas, ask your questions. It's a collective learning environment.
Right.
Thank y'all, brothers, too.
And I'm just end with saying, man, get your spiritual credit right. Credit starts with your community. It starts with how you start to interact with the group. And if you say you're going to do something, do it, because we're going to start with build the nation here. We got to be able to lean and trust on one another. So once we get that done, then we can start to move forward. And it's like from step 1 to step 2, it's not having to keep going back to the beginning. So I appreciate everybody that was on the phone call. I appreciate everybody that was listening. Now let's actually get something done with it so we can move forward. So we'll be back again. Next strong, Chief will be coming back. New topic, a new day, a new era, and a new nation. We're out. Peace.
Ashe. Peace. Peace.
Peace.
And you all make sure you check out that second video that the sister put out on Odd Anomaly TV. All right, I'm just gonna say that before we leave. The Sacred Space series, Odd Anomaly TV. Make sure you subscribe and click like and you know, show support. All right, peace.